Let's go.
But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, or you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker Mayfield.
I really think that now this is the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers, is that they're going to have to cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo.
But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, or you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker Mayfield.
I really think that now this is the worst case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers, is that they're going to have to cut ties with Jimmy Garoppolo if I were them.
What?
Oh my God!
Wow,
man!
In any event, Kyle Gibson is definitely my NL Cy Young Award winner. Rock on, Gibby.
And even
Third and 29. Jones steps up, tries to avoid it, buys some time. Jones uncorks, deep ball, touchdown on the ricochet.
Purdy back to throw. Pressure coming, steps away, looking to run, and he walks it in for the touchdown. Throw on 4th and 18. He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Justin Jefferson. Jacobs with running room right up the middle. Jacobs is on his way. The Raiders are going to win this game.
Lays it up, and it's intercepted. Trayvon Diggs. Guess who? On it to McCaffrey right up the middle, and it's stiff arm. McCaffrey for 6.
Well, how's it going, everybody? Hope all of you guys are doing well right now here on this Monday night. My name is Isaiah Leong. I'm joined by my guy, James Gonzalez, for another edition of not Extra Point, but Sports Weekly. We were having some technical issues. For some reason, the music on the Sports Weekly intro wasn't playing. So I thought, since, we didn't want to have that awkward intro, we wanted to have a great intro. And I thought, you know what, since we are doing a show that has a lot of football content, mostly football stuff tonight, why not just play the football intro and just jazz it up a little bit. But I guess we're out of the technical difficulties now, so I'm glad that we've moved past it. But hope all of you guys are doing well. Hope everybody is having had a great weekend and had a great Monday. But James, I don't know if you're there. My guy is still feeling some of the effects of that early morning earthquake that struck Southern California this morning. James, if you are there, how are you doing today, my friend? Well, looks like we don't have James. Once again, guys, we are dealing with some technical difficulties at the moment. So bear with us, please. I'm sure James is probably going to be back in a bit, but it's been a great sports weekend, or it was a great sports weekend. It was a great sports Monday. I mean, how about that Giants Braves game as we wait for James and some of my other colleagues to hop on? How about this sports weekend? And then we had today with the Giants Braves, Blake Snell and Chris Sale, battle of two aces, both absolutely showed out. The Braves end up beating the Giants by a score of 1-0. Snell goes 7. I think he went 6 1/3 shutout. 6 1/3 shutout. And then Chris Sale went 7. It was an absolutely amazing, masterful pitchers duel by both pitchers. As we have my guy Ben Cruz joining us. Ben, we're having a lot of technical difficulties to start the show. Glad you're here with us as we're waiting on James. But how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. I know it's obviously been a rough weekend for the Red Sox, and they had a much-needed walk-off against the Rangers tonight. Of course, the Jarren Duran stuff that happened yesterday, and the Astros seem to be back, which is a scary sight for baseball, unfortunately. So that was that. But I do want to announce that I am going to be working one of the biggest sporting events in a couple weeks. For those that don't know, I'll be working the U.S. Open tennis tournament in a couple weeks, of course, which is I'm really excited for that opportunity. I was at training on Saturday for that in Queens, New York, which, of course, the tournament's going to be right across the street from Citi Field where the New York Mets play. So, funny enough, the Mets are going to be playing the Red Sox at Citi Field the first week of September while I'll be working there. So there's potentially a chance where I can work earlier during the day and then walk across the street and watch my Sox play the Mets. So that would be pretty cool. But, yeah, I'm really excited for that opportunity in a couple weeks. And, for tonight, can't wait to get started for this show. I haven't been on one of these in a while, and I'm excited to see what's ahead.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy for you, Ben. Congratulations on that opportunity that you have now. If you guys, go ahead and like and subscribe and follow our MI6 Sports Network as well as our IM6 Network. We have, we're on various social media platforms such as Facebook, X, and also Instagram and YouTube. And we pump out great sports content every single week. So go ahead and check that out, guys. But let's get into the sports content, shall we? And we start in the NFL, where football is back, fellas. Football. James, do we have you? I think. Do we have you?
You got me, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we got you. We got you. How are you doing today, my friend?
Oh, good. There's some good MLB action today. Just getting the hours of watching film for the preseason. Not really. But, watching what I could to prep for the show. So let's get into all that.
Yeah, let's get into it. And let's start in the NFL, where football is back, fellas. Finally, after a long wait, football is officially back. And we had preseason week 1 kickoff in the NFL. Let's start off with our NFL preseason week 1 team reports. And we'll talk about how each one of our teams fared here in preseason week 1 and what we liked from what we saw from our teams and what we didn't like. I'm going to start off with the Niners. The Niners played the Titans in Tennessee to kick off the 2024 NFL preseason. The Niners lost 17-13, unfortunately, to the Titans, but it was a very good game, good back and forth game that went down to the wire. Josh Dobbs had a chance to hit a receiver in the end zone when the Niners were at the Titans' 35-yard line with about 10 seconds left, but sadly he overshot the intended target and the Niners sadly lost. But I mean, thankfully the games don't count right now. But it was a typical preseason game where, you're going to have mistakes. You're going to, have stupid penalties, stupid turnovers. But all in all, you wanted to see a close game, a close back and forth game. That's what you saw. It was a close back and forth game until the end. I would say my biggest takeaways from this game was, number one, get Brandon Allen the heck off my team. I mean, that guy is a bona fide scrub. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but he can't throw the football. I mean, I watched him out there. The guy was completing like 2 or 3 yard passes like every time. And if he wasn't throwing those 2 or 3 yard dink and dunkers, he was missing guys over the middle, missing guys deep. Like, there's a reason that guy is a journeyman quarterback and why he's a third string quarterback. And so I just think that for the 49ers, I think you could do so much better. I think that if, and I've said this in the group chat, if Bailey Zappi gets cut by the Patriots, I would not mind him as our third string quarterback, because the Niners have seen in so many years that having as many good, decent quarterbacks on your team is very valuable, because we always struggle with injuries to our quarterbacks, it seems like. So having as much depth as possible is good. And I just think, like, I hope the season, doesn't come down to freaking Brandon Allen starting, because then that means the season will most likely be gone. But having as many good quarterbacks on your team is definitely very valuable. And I just don't think Brandon Allen is even a competent option at this point. So that was my first biggest takeaway. The second one was, I loved what I saw out of Cody Schrader, the undrafted rookie running back from Missouri, who had a really good year last year. I was very shocked that he wasn't drafted, but this dude was one of the better running backs in college football last season, and he absolutely played like a stud. He was powering over guys. He was running crazy. I really think he has a great shot to make the team, and I think that he might be the Brock Purdy of running backs and emerge from undrafted or drafted late and into a really good player, because he just seems like a prototypical, like, really good NFL running back. And I just think the third takeaway is Josh Dobbs is what Trey Lance was supposed to be for the 49ers. That guy has a cannon of an arm. He was running wild out there. He was like a linebacker running out there. I was very impressed by what I saw from Josh Dobbs. And I know I was criticizing him before preseason, saying, the guy was so bad throwing the football, but he was actually good, throwing lasers all over the field to Cam Latu and Trent Taylor. Just very impressive. And I think he's got the number 2 quarterback job now locked up for the Niners after the first week of preseason. If there was any of a doubt between him and Brandon Allen, I think all doubt has been erased. But just a good preseason game. Great to see football back. And I think Kyle Shanahan said the starters will play in week 2 a little bit. So can't wait to see them out there. But those are my takeaways for the Niners, and that's my report on the Niners. But James, I'll start with you. The Raiders played the Vikings. It was a decent game for the Raiders and the Vikings. What's your report on the Raiders?
Yeah, the first thing that I noticed and that I kind of forgot about but then remembered right away was the new kickoff formation. And, getting used to that, everybody having to be 5 yards apart, the kicker way back there at his own 35. And then you got the 2 returners back there, and nobody can move until the return is made, I guess, or return is caught. But so I had to get used to that at first. The defense played pretty well when some of the starters are out there. And again, for once in a lifetime, it seems like the defense for the Raiders will be the meal ticket for them. I can't remember the last time I said that. Crosby and Wilkins didn't play, but some of the secondary that needs to show up did. And they held Sam Darnold to, I think, pedestrian numbers. Only 63 yards passing. But the issue was when J.J. McCarthy came in, and I know we'll talk about him later in the rookie quarterbacks in their first performances, and he went off on the Raiders. It looked pretty bad when the second stringers came in. And then you look to the Raider offense. the rookie McCormick out of University of Texas, San Antonio. He had the bulk of the carries and 32 yards. Jazir White had the one touchdown up the middle for the Raiders. The receivers, Trey Tucker, who might be really underrated this year as a third position receiver. He had the bulk of the catches along with Jacoby Myers. So that was good to see. The one thing I think everybody is talking about so far is the quarterback competition of the Raiders. And you got to see, I forget who went first. I think it was Aiden O'Connell who went first. He had 76 yards passing. It looked okay. No, Minshew went first. I'm sorry, Minshew went first. He had 117 yards passing and one touchdown to the corner that looked really, really good to DJ Turner. So that was a really good thing to see. And then, Aiden O'Connell came in, and he showed some flashes there, some passes over the middle. But that's going to be determined next week, who will start week 1 for the Raiders. And I know everybody's thinking about that. The problem was, guys, crap, the same things happened, whether it's preseason or regular season, the way that the Raiders would give up games, right? They would play a fun, spirited first half. You know, they led 20-7, and then they start to get conservative with their run. The third-string quarterback came in, Anthony Brown Jr., and he was awful. He was getting sacked. He wasn't able to get a pass off, and when he did finally, it was good to see. But the protection was not there for him. I felt bad for the third-string quarterback. J.J. McCarthy caught on fire with 2 touchdowns. He did throw 1 pick. But in the end, Minnesota had a game-winning field goal to make it 24-23. And that just felt like for the last 2 to 3 years or so, or a little more, when the Raiders give up games, it usually happens in the second half. They rest on the lead and then they lose it. I'm hoping that goes away with Pierce's, mentality. But it was a well-played game by the Raiders up until that second half. It was a tale of two halves, honestly. Next week, the Cowboys come to Vegas to play the Raiders. And, I can't wait to see that, because that's going to be that's, again, will tell if O'Connell's going to start or Minshew will start the season. Then they also got to figure out the how the secondary is going to end up like. And then also the offensive line, because they're very young on the offensive line, other from Colton Miller. You got a lot of young guys that you're trying to figure out and where to put them in the right place on the O-line. So, even in preseason, I hate losing in the way that they did. It never feels good to do that. But well played game, though, by the Vikings.
Yeah, that was definitely a very entertaining game. I watched a little bit of that game, and we'll talk about J.J. McCarthy in a little bit, but he did look very, very impressive in that game. Nick Mullins also looked impressive as well. I know I had to mention him, but Ben, we'll go to you next. The Patriots kicked off week 1 of preseason against the Carolina Panthers. I actually watched a good chunk of that game. I know that Drake May, the Patriots heralded rookie quarterback, he came in, surprisingly only played 1 series. Thought he was going to play a lot more, but Jacoby Brissett played 1 series. Thought he was pretty meh in that first series. But the Patriots, with that defense, that suffocating defense of the Patriots, they suffocated the Panthers 17-3, the final score. Ben, what was your biggest takeaways in your report grade for the Patriots in their first game of preseason?
Yeah, I think overall, it's really hard to kind of gauge on the first game of preseason, but it was good to see the guys back. Obviously it was, see Drake May and a bunch of the young guys that they drafted this year to get some action. We also got the first chance of seeing wide receivers Devon Baker and Javon Polk, who are expected to play a massive role this year with the team. A lot of guys didn't play in this one. Matt Judon, obviously, who currently is still holding out for a contract. Of course, Kendrick Bourne is currently on PUP. Demario Douglas, two of their main receivers were down. So that obviously was a massive thing there. But, I thought overall the starters were okay offensively. It's going to be the offensive line that I'm really struggling about. And, offensive line last year was pretty meh. And this year it could be the same exact thing because the defense overall, I thought last year really still held it down for the most part, despite Christian Gonzalez and Matt Judon pretty much being out for most of the season. But the defense was able to kind of keep its ground for most of that time. And, hopefully we don't have to worry about the defense kind of carrying the whole entire year. And the offense is going to have to start to kind of get that slack on their side as well too. So I think Jacoby Brissett obviously one series. I think Jacoby all in all has been pretty good in training camp as of late. I think that with Alex Van Pelt and that overall scheme over there, he knows the system. And of course, I'm not too worried about Jacoby. I think overall, I think it's going to be a lot better than the quarterback play we've seen in the past. I know obviously Mac is. He got a bad rep overall. I know that he obviously struggled, but I think Jacoby Brissett should be an instant upgrade over what we've gotten from Mac Jones and a couple other guys beforehand since Brady left. So, and then Drake May. I know that you obviously talked about that. He only played one series. I think a lot of Patriot fans were disappointed in it, but I know that there was a ton of speculation that it could have been because the offensive line isn't really put together just yet. They don't want to put him into the fire and play multiple series with an offensive line that is currently not been worked together and this and that. And I understand it, but Gerard Mayo was saying that a couple days ago that he does expect May to play a little bit more this Thursday when they play the Eagles back at Gillette Stadium. So that should be really interesting. Hopefully we get the chance to see him play against some of the starters for the Eagles on defense. The Panthers, all in all, only played like half their guys that weren't starters. Most of them were not starters. Bryce Young didn't play. A bunch of their guys didn't play. So it's kind of really, like I said, it's really hard to kind of gauge preseason, but it's also kind of hard to gauge a lot of the guys playing against backups. I will say so. But all in all, it was good to see them back in action. You're right, Isaiah, about the defense. I thought the defense was pretty good all in all the whole entire game. I know that obviously there was some hiccups here and there, but it's mostly third stringers and fourth stringers that don't play a lot. So Bailey Zappi, your guy Isaiah, played a lot in this game. I felt that Joe Milton should have played a little bit more in that second half, but Bailey Zappi, I think, maybe played for his job possibly. I know that there's a lot of teams that could be out there for a backup quarterback, and he played, I think, 7 to 8 series on that game this past week. So I think that pretty much tells me that they're ready to cut ties eventually with him. And I think all in all, he's trying, here and there, but there's just no spot for him, on that 1 and 2 on that quarterback depth chart right now. So Joe Milton did really impress me, though. He kind of gives me the Malik Cunningham vibe of last year in the preseason, kind of that main preseason quarterback star that kind of falls off during the regular season, but we can kind of have a little bit of fun watching that at the end. He does have a gunslinging of an arm, though. He can really sling it. The touchdown pass that he had at the end, I don't know who the hell caught it, but it was a great pass. It was a pump fake on the left-hand sideline. The corner was beat, and then, he threw it, behind them for the touchdown. So, obviously it's just one game, but good to see a dub, and we'll see if they can catch many dubs for the actual season when it matters most. But we'll see. We'll take what we can take. And the Eagles coming up, I do expect the Eagles to obviously play a lot more of their starters. Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Smith, and all those guys. So it'll be kind of curious to kind of see how the defense, the starting defense responds this upcoming week, and if May plays a little bit more. Because I know we only have 4 preseason games, and kind of that third game is really that dress rehearsal, I guess you can say, where most of the starters kind of play at least a good half. So at that second game, you kind of could feel that maybe the starters might play more of a quarter. So you can kind of get a little bit more of a baseline. I know it's not much, but kind of a little bit of a preview, maybe what's to come. So that's my Patriots preseason week 1 recap. And I I feel like, did you ask me something else, Isaiah, too? I might have missed. I know you obviously asked me kind of how I felt about the game, but feel like
Oh
you asked me
yeah,
maybe
I
something.
just asked you, but I think you answered it. It was just about
Okay.
who really stood out in that game.
Okay. Yeah. So I'd say on the offensive side, probably Joe Milton. Because he might be on the team, maybe as a third quarterback this year. Uh, and then defensively, I'd probably go Dietrich Wise. The first play of the game, boom, sack right attacked up from the left tackle from Carolina, and he's gonna be a big part of this defense, especially if Matt Judon and Christian Balmer currently with his condition going on right now. Hopefully he's doing okay because man, that's still a scary situation going on with Christian. But yeah, if Uche isn't playing a lot, I know that obviously he's kind of been behind the depth chart, but hopefully he plays a lot because he's been a force when he plays. They really need Dietrich to really play a massive role because guys like him and David Andrews, they're going to be the captains this year. It's more than not a very, very young team. This is why I think this is really the official new era of this Patriots type team because there's a lot of guys that many outsiders know about. Obviously, that there's some guys, Christian Gonzalez and Judon, and Roger Stevenson. So there's some guys that you know about, but it's just not like it once was. So, but I'm excited. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that's a great segue over to our next segment. And this is a segment I think James is very excited to talk about, and that is which of the rookie quarterbacks impressed you the most here in week 1 of preseason? There was all the rookies played, and a lot of them, played really, really well. Bo Nix had the most notable stat, going 15 of 21, 125 yards, 1 touchdown. 0 interceptions. He looked like the front runner for the Denver Broncos starting quarterback job with his performance. Caleb Williams, 4 for 7, 95 yards, and the Bears 33-6 win over the Bills. JJ McCarthy, James saw him a lot in that Raiders game against the Vikings. He went 11 for 17 for 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, rebounded nicely after throwing a pick on his very first drive. Drake May went 2 for 3 in his one series of play, going 2 for 3 for 19 yards. And Jaden Daniels, 2 for 3 for 45 yards, looked very elusive in that Commanders game. But Ben, I'll go to you first on this. Out of all the rookie quarterbacks that played in week 1 of preseason, which one impressed you the most?
I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to go Jaden Daniels because I think personally for him, he's going to really be the starter. And I think that for Commanders fans, there was a lot of kind of unknown at quarterback for so many years. I know obviously Sam Howell is, tried to be the guy here and there, but I think that, you got the second overall pick and you kind of want to see how it's going to work out. He had an awesome deep throw early in that game that could maybe show that he could be the guy. And obviously, I don't know if it was against the Jets backups or not, but the Jets all in all have a pretty solid defense. And, I know that he had, if you can really kind of get those receivers in action for most of this year's season, I'm not saying the Commanders are probably going to win that division per se, but they could be interesting this year. Because I think that, for a lot of rookies, they need to have the guys around them with talent. And that's what I worry about with this Patriots side team is there enough talent surrounding a guy like Drake May, like Mac Jones, right, where he comes and he gets drafted, but there's not a lot of guys there. And part of it was on him throughout the time in New England. But you see with, for instance, Terry McLaurin and John May Brown and some other guys in Washington, that could be what the Patriots could potentially have if they had some guys around him. So, Jaden Daniels, I thought really impressed me. Bo Nix, of course, was another one. Of course, you could see, guys like Cortland Sutton and some other guys getting surrounded pieces. Feels like a common thing I'm talking here. And so, yeah, I think with the Broncos, like you mentioned, Isaiah, Bo Nix has a really solid chance. You look at that quarterback depth room. It could be one of the worst quarterback, rooms in the overall league this year. You have Zach Wilson, you have Jared Stidham, and you have Bo Nix. So, Bo Nix is not, going against guys like, Patrick Mahomes or even close to that overall caliber, Josh Allen. So, he could definitely win that job. I think that Sean Payton, too, has a lot of belief in him as well, too. So I think that's another bonus as well. So, Yeah, I think, Jaden Daniels, obviously had the rushing touchdown. I think it was the same drive. He had that deep ball on the right sideline. Obviously correct me if I'm wrong there, but all in all, that's really cool to see. A lot of the guys, Michael Penix Jr., I think too, will be really fun. Obviously he's not going to be a starter though this year with Kirk Cousins being the starter. So I'm just looking at a couple of the young guys that can really legitimately be the starters for this year. And I think that they, a lot of them are really impressive, but I know a couple of, kind of show what they can be potentially showcase for this upcoming regular season.
Yeah, Ben, I mean, I totally agree with you with a lot of your points that you made. For me, it's got to be Bo Nix. I think he was the biggest quarterback that stood out the most. I mean, he was 15 of 21, very efficient, 125 yards, 1 touchdown. It looked like he already mastered Sean Payton's offense. And because, I mean, the guy was audibling at the line of scrimmage. He was doing a lot of stuff that you see guys that have been in Sean Payton's offense for like 3 to 5 years do, not a guy in his rookie year. And Bo Nix was doing all that type of stuff. And he showed off the cannon arm that he had. He showed off the very crisp intermediate passing that he's very good at. And also he showed off the mobility, which is something that I think Sean Payton expected from Russell Wilson last year, but you didn't really get a chance to see much of it. And I think Bo Nix, he was very, very impressive. And I thought that out of all the quarterbacks, I probably would have said that Bo Nix was the guy that I was kind of like 50-50 on if he would succeed in the NFL. And I know it's just one game, but he proved me wrong with just everything that he did. Making his reads, making the right throws, the mobility, getting out of the pocket, running, and throwing on the run. I mean, it was just very, very impressive. And I think that, he cemented himself as the front runner for the Broncos starting quarterback job. If Sean Payton wants to win this season, he cemented himself for that. The other quarterbacks, like you mentioned, I think Caleb Williams looked very confident in his second game. He looked like the first game he didn't play, but it felt like even though he didn't play, he was on the sideline and he could see how fast the other defense was. It felt like with Caleb Williams, he just looked very confident. He looked poised, and he looked amazing out there. I mean, those some of those passes that he threw, the one where he shoveled pass, the other one where he threw a no-look pass to the receiver. I mean, it was just very, very impressive stuff. JJ McCarthy was also very impressive. I mean, the poise that he showed as well. You could truly see why this guy was a very cerebral passer in college, and why he, stayed a long time in college, and how polished he was. The thing with Drake May is I can't really judge him off of one series because that was his first series in the NFL. But I would probably say that out of all the quarterbacks, I would probably say that Drake May looked the most nervous, but then again, it's unfair to judge him because it's just one series. But you could kind of tell there were jitters. There were butterflies. I did like that screen pass that he threw. That was a very, very good pass that he threw to survive the rush, and that's what you need in the NFL. And then Jaden Daniels, like you mentioned, the deep ball, he showed some of the talent that he had. And then Michael Penix. I thought Michael Penix, outside of Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy, played one of the best preseason games I've seen in a long time. I mean, this guy, the deep throws, the intermediate stuff. I mean, he looked very polished, and he looked like he's been in the NFL for like 2-3 years. And fellas, I'll say this: I won't be shocked if, let's say, Kirk Cousins and the Falcons start off slow and everybody's clamoring for Michael Penix. Like, I could see a situation now where that's the case. And that's why I was against Atlanta doing that, because if you get off to a slow start and, Kirk Cousins, coming off that ACL or the Achilles is not playing as great as he was in the past, then you're going to start having a quarterback controversy. And that's something you did not want to bring up, especially with Cousins being in his first year. But Penix looked very good out there, and I was very shocked by what I saw. And I do want to give a shout out to, I know he wasn't mentioned in the rookie quarterback list that we had, but I want to give a shout out to Keaton Slovis of the Colts. I mean, I watched this guy at USC, watched him at BYU. he played 2 series for the Colts. The first one, 3 and out. You could see there was a lot of jitters. The second series, however, was absolutely flawless. He led the Colts right down the field and engineered a touchdown drive. Very impressed with a lot of the throws that he had. And, I think he can be this year's Brock Purdy, where he unseats a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I'll talk about him later on. But I think that I'll leave it at that. I think he can unseat a starting quarterback this year, in the NFL, and he looks like a ready-made NFL passer. So I do want to give a shout-out to him. But, James, what out of all the rookies that we named, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, you can even add Keaton Slovis to the list if you want. Which rookie quarterback impressed you the most in week 1?
I mean, Keaton Slovis didn't even look like he belonged out there. He looked so short among all the other people there on the field. I have to say the most pressure was on Caleb Williams, just because he didn't play in that first game, and everybody was clamoring to see his first action. And he had a little flair even in the game where he had the no-look pass like Mahomes does. For a big gain to the running back, I believe. So that was pretty cool to see. And then he looked poised under the pocket. He threw very well. And he even ran for a first down and got out of the pocket there. So a lot of positives with his first NFL action in preseason. That was great to see. I hated the fact, and I know weather was a factor with the rain at Foxborough, but Drake May only having the screen pass for 12 yards. I wanted to see more because I think you can agree, Ben, they're desperate to find that next, quarterback that'll lead them. And, hopefully he's the guy. But hopefully he gets more reps and more throws next time around against Philly, like you mentioned. So I was hoping that would be the case. The most impressive, though, was Bo Nix. I really thought that the numbers, not McCarthy's great numbers, but he was able to throw some good balls and a good touchdown there. It was timely, or else it would have been a long pick the other way for his touchdown for Bo Nix. And the pressure was on him because, remember, he was already, the third-string quarterback coming in. And I think that was just pressure on him just to see if he could climb up the ranks. And he already did that. I think the biggest story was him and Caleb Williams, the preseason there. So that was great to see him, Bo Nix, get some reps and just do very well. I was really shocked by that just because of everything we heard out of Eaglewood, Colorado, where, the whole quarterback room was awful. But no, that was, I guess, the other two, Stidham and Wilson. So maybe, again, it hurts me because Bo Nix was picked, one pick before the Raiders. And then the next one was, Penix Jr. at number 8 to the Falcons. And, he's in Miami. And he stayed in the pocket very well and threw some darts. That was great to see. And what I like about those two guys is that they're already polished because of how many seasons they played in college football. So they're already ready. They're almost ready to go, it seems like. So those are my two favorite quarterbacks coming out of the draft, and you could tell why. But yeah, J.J. McCarthy definitely carved up the Raider defense. That was unfortunate to see. But I like all those quarterbacks. I was trying to remember if there was another one, not named Slovis, but let me mention real quick. I think he's technically a rookie, but Stetson Bennett of the LA Rams. Remember last year he left the training or preseason. He had some mental health issues and he took the year off. And then he came in now and pretty much started the whole game for the LA Rams because Stafford and Jimmy Garoppolo were both in street clothes or equipment or T-shirts. So they really had no other quarterback. So Stetson Bennett for all the good numbers he did put up, he did throw 4 picks, almost a fifth, but there was a holding penalty on the Dallas Cowboys, or else that would have been the game. He instead got another chance. He threw a sidearm throw. Something about those Georgia quarterbacks with their sidearm throws, like Stafford and Bennett. He threw a sidearm
throw. This too. With Carson Beck. I'll be doing it too.
He threw I forget who caught it for the Rams, but it was a game-winning touchdown. But it's just funny how the preseason goes. He's a tough kid. He stay in the pocket. He's very tough. But I guess Bennett technically is a rookie because he didn't play his first season of ball. But yeah, again, Bo Nix and I think Caleb Williams and Jalen Daniels. I know it was only one drive he had, but that deep ball for 42 yards was really good. And then he could do it with the feet too, where he had the fake handoff. He took it himself to the right for the touchdown. That was really good to see too. And it's something that Commanders and the Patriots need is their quarterbacks to really shine and to show more progress, I think, than others. But the story was Nix and Caleb Williams for the preseason for the quarterback so far.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. As we prepare to exit out of the preseason topics, the last topic for the preseason is what other big takeaways that you have for week 1 of the preseason, just looking at all the games in general. For me, I got a couple before I give it to you guys, Ben and James. For mine, a couple takeaways that I had. Number 1 is, and this is why I said I'm going to mention Kedon Slovis again, because this guy is going to be Brock Purdy 2.0. If you thought I talked about Brock Purdy a lot, wait till I talk about Kedon Slovis a lot this season, James and Ben. It might be nonstop, but I was very impressed by what I saw from Kedon Slovis, and I see James got his hand over his ears. He doesn't want to hear it, but sorry, James. Kedon Slovis, fellas, is on the fast track to being the next franchise starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. I don't trust Anthony Richardson's health. The guy has never made it through a game healthy and unscathed. Every game he's played, he's left the game with injuries. Yes, he's come back a few times, but the guy always gets hurt, and he plays a violent style of football, which is going to keep making him get hurt until he stops playing that style of football. I mean, the guy runs to contact. In the NFL, the problem with that is the defenders are faster, the defenders are bigger, and they're just better than the ones that you see in college. So I just think with Anthony Richardson, I don't trust him to stay healthy. I think that when you look at the other quarterbacks the Colts have, Joe Flacco, I mean, the guy sadly is super old. I think he should retire, to be honest. And Sam Ehlinger is not very impressive whatsoever. I think Kedon Slovis really has a shot to continue to improve and develop, and I think he has a shot to end up being the Colts starting quarterback, because I just don't trust Flacco, I don't trust Ehlinger, and I don't trust Anthony Richardson to stay healthy. So I think Kedon Slovis can end up doing it. He's got a fast release. He is very poised. He makes all of his reads. So he looks like a prototypical NFL quarterback. And I think that, bold hot take, guys, I think he will unseat Anthony Richardson as the Colts starting quarterback by midseason. The second takeaway that I have, I know we mentioned a lot about the quarterbacks and all that stuff, but Mac Jones looked good. He looked very good in his time with the Jaguars. Maybe going away from Bill Belichick and going away from the Patriots was what he needed to resurrect his career. I mean, he looked very poised out there. He looked good with passing the ball wise. He didn't turn the football over once. The Jaguars as a whole looked good. I mean, Trevor Lawrence looked better than he did last season when he was hurt. CJ Beathard looked very good in his limited time. And then Mac Jones, he looked very good as well. And then the third takeaway is, sadly, I think Trey Lance might have synced his career in the preseason game. that the Cowboys played. I know it might be an overreaction, but have you guys seen what Trey Lance has been doing in practice and now in the preseason game? Dude went 25 of 41 for 188 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And there was a play where the guy runs back like 15 yards, and then normally in the NFL, the quarterback is taught, throw it away if there's nobody open. It seemed like he couldn't make up his mind between should I throw it or should I just try to run away and try to run for it. He took a 20-yard sack. So that was not one of his best plays of the day. There were some good stuff, like he threw on the run, made one play where he threw on the run and got a completion, but I just don't see it. I mean, he's in his 4th year now. He was supposed to be better than this, and I think Steve Smith put it very well. He is a guy in year 4 that looks like a rookie quarterback, and that is a problem if you're Trey Lance. Still can't throw the ball well. Running, he thinks he can run over everybody, but he can't. So I feel bad for Trey Lance, but sadly his career might be over fairly shortly in the NFL. But James, I'll toss it over to you. What are some other big takeaways that you have for week 1 of preseason?
Speaking of quarterbacks, we all know Justin Herbert had the plantar fracture, whatever. Yeah, thank you. The Albert Pujols injury, I remember, with the Angels.
Hey, man, too. Yep,
that's right. So that puts the Chargers in a bad spot, and they looked awful offensively against the Seahawks on Saturday afternoon. Had no desire to go to that game, even though I had a free ticket.
I bought a ticket for that game, believe it or not, but I couldn't get off, so I had to eat it. Thankfully, it was only $6, though.
Yeah, I gotta eat that. But yeah, Easton Stick, the Charger backup for a while now, he did not look good. That's not his type of system for offense for the Chargers. He likes to rush out of the pocket and throw on the run. I think their system is more, stay in the pocket, run the ball. But the Chargers didn't look so well, and their 2 running backs that they got from former Ravens didn't play because they're trying to keep them healthy. Edwards and the other dude, forget his name, but the defense didn't look good, and then the offense, the backup quarterbacks didn't look good. I kind of look for the Chargers maybe to get C.J. Beathard from the Jaguars. He has a lot of competition. You guys mentioned Mac Jones and, Trevor Lawrence is, of course, with Jacksonville now, or both of them are on Jacksonville. So Beathard is not going to get a chance, but he might if he goes to the Chargers. I think his dad was a GM there for a while back in the 90s, I want to say. But that was one takeaway from preseason week 1 for the Chargers. They just looked really bad. Drew Lock got hurt, unfortunately, for the Giants. More pressure on Daniel Jones. Having a beard is not going to be enough. He's going to have to perform. What else? I was really shocked, I think, by the Bills really not showing up. But I know a lot of their starters didn't play. The Colts defense looked good at first. I think that's going to be the strength of their team, almost like the Raiders in a way. So I did mention that, or I did see that. You mentioned Trey Lance. I was watching that game. A lot of negatives over positives for sure. The Rams might have a really stacked young running back room, and they only got better with the draft. And their defense, I think, will be just fine. They kind of showed it against the Cowboys. That game was 6-6 for a long time. So a lot of sleepy football on the weekend at SoFi Stadium. That was really, really bad for people that had to go to that. Luckily, I didn't want to, of course. The other takeaway, I think, again, was the new kickoff formation, how the players can't move. And you saw a lot of jittery players still trying to get used to this. And it's going to take a whole, I think, month for players to really, really get it after a while. And I'm kind of shocked too that the kickers aren't just blowing it out of the end zone. I see a lot of them just just getting it in the 5 or the 10-yard line, I would just kick it for a touchback every damn time. But what I've seen, though, is more returns back. And we haven't really seen a breakaway run, but, at least more yardage, though, on returns than with the new kickoff formation. So maybe they're looking to keep the kickoff, but having more action to it. So those are my takeaways from preseason week 1.
All right, Ben, what were your biggest takeaways from week 1 of preseason, like other than what happened with the Patriots?
Yeah, the Texans' offense is going to be a problem. CJ Stroud played in this game. He absolutely, just went crazy. What a shocker. He is going to be a sleeper to me as an MVP candidate. I think he's going to be that good this year with that Texans team. They got Stephon Diggs, of course, now in to help him out. And just remember, guys, with the Texans, they were just a complete dumpster fire a couple years ago, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. It's always critical to get that quarterback because then you can start to build the pieces around. And the Texans are now able to go from a dumpster fire like 2 years ago to a potential. I mean, I guess they'll probably make the next jump in the AFC. They'll be a contender for sure. It's just a matter in terms of, are they at the Chiefs level or are they like the Ravens level? That'll be time to tell. But I will say, with that offense that they had there, that was a little bit of a preview. They're going to be a problem. Joe Burrow came back. He played 1 series. T. Higgins had a touchdown. The Bengals. Joe Burrow just got to stay healthy because that Bengals offense could just be back to where they've been. They show that even though without Joe Mixon too, I think they got so many weapons on the outside. I still think they'll be okay. The Giants are gonna have a hard time this year. Their offensive line is gonna be an absolute shambles. Drew Lock, the guy Isaiah. It doesn't matter who you put there behind the offensive line for the Giants, they're going to be in shambles. I'll tell you that right now. Andrew Thomas, I think, is probably their best offensive lineman, but Evan Neal has been a massive bust. They just got some other guys that are just not working out over there. And Brian Dable, Isaiah, I know that we've talked about him maybe being fired. He could be out there on the coaching carousel this offseason. I think a lot of teams would want him. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know obviously Justin Fields played decent amount of series because Russell Wilson was out, I think, to an injury, and he lost 2 fumbles. So Justin Fields, I know that obviously he has a ton of talent, but it's all about consistency. That's been one thing about Justin Fields as a whole. And, he's a little bit loose. Lackadaisical in this first game. But I do think with the Steelers, I'll just be so curious to see where Mike Tomlin goes. Does he want to go with Justin Fields or does he want to go with Russell Wilson? Because I've been seeing a lot in training camp that apparently they have been kind of going back and forth in terms of like how they've been feeling with each other. It's been kind of interesting. So I'm not saying that I don't know if there's going to be tension or not, but just very interested to see in terms of what's going on over there. So I'd say the Texans, number 1, are a problem. The Giants' offensive line is a complete dumpster fire, and I won't be shocked if it keeps on being the same way this year. Joe Burrow is back, and the Steelers' quarterback situation is going to be very fascinating.
Ben, I'm glad you brought up the Texans because I forgot to bring them up when I was talking about my takeaways. The one thing we need to watch is the relationship between Stephon Diggs and CJ Stroud. And I don't want to overreact, but there was a video circulating on the internet when I think it was after the first series, Diggs did not get any receptions. He did not get any targets. And it looked like he was kind of a little bit upset. He was having like a talking with CJ Stroud. Diggs is known to have those with his quarterbacks. Like if he's not getting his targets, if he's not getting his touches, he's going to get pissed and he's going to go and have a shouting match with his quarterbacks. And that affected his relationship with Kirk Cousins. That affected his relationship with Josh Allen in Buffalo. It's going to be interesting to see that relationship play out this season because if you're already doing that in preseason, wait till when the hard times hit, because we know in a season there are going to be hard times. Wait till when the hard times hit in the regular season, and then let's see how that ends up happening. But I do agree with you on the Giants. They are a dumpster fire, and that's why I sadly don't think that Dable survives because there are going to be pressure. We know the NFC East, there's a lot of 3 of the 4 coaches are on the hot seat. One of them are most likely going to get fired. So I just don't know how Dable survives with that mess and Daniel Jones. It might be better, honestly, for him to go somewhere else. And then the Steelers, yeah, I don't know. With Fields and Wilson, it's like we have all these like quarterback messes in the league, right? You got the Steelers, you got the Raiders, you got the Broncos. It's like Bo Nix versus Jared Stidham or Zach Wilson. Raiders, Minshew versus O'Connell. And then Steelers, you have Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Justin Fields did not look good in the preseason, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But I do want to turn it over to James to get the rest of the show on the road, because I know he's got a lot of stuff to say about this topic, and it's regarding the soap opera in the NFL, the New York Jets. Another chapter in the Jets drama happened today with Hassan Reddick. Something that I wish we had that little picture of the, I don't know if we have it, but right here. This picture right here represents New York sports, sadly. Whether it's the Jets, whether it's the Giants, or whether it's the Mets, literally this picture represents them all. And another chapter in the Jets soap opera happened. I'll give it to James to get his full rant out about it and bring us to that topic. Go ahead, James.
Now I know Ben is in the New York area, or above it, I should say. But I know a lot of Jet fans as well out here, and I was talking to some of them or messaging with them today, and the Jets are just gonna jet. It always just seems like they get something nice, either can't use it or they use it wrongfully. I think of Le'Veon Bell. I think of their draft picks, their quarterbacks that have gone awry, either free agency or drafting. And this is just another issue with the Jets. Hassan Reddick has officially requested a trade from the Jets. That was about 10 hours ago. A reminder, though, he hasn't played down for them. He hasn't practiced with them, not even OTAs, I think. And he didn't come to training camp. He was traded from the Eagles. I can't remember what they got back for him, but the Eagles look like they, of course, fleeced him in a way. But he's one of those trade folks that wants the extension. If you're traded to a team, he wanted to be paid right away and extend it right away. And for me, it's like both sides just look awful on this. I know Joe Douglas did come out, the GM, and mention that he informed Hassan Reddick that they will not trade him. He's expected to be here, and that he will continually be fined, just like you see CeeDee Lamb and others who aren't showing up, per the CBA if he doesn't report. The problem is, since March with the trade discussions, that they were going to get a deal done, but they were taking their sweet time with it. And if you're going to have issues with the Jets here, if you're going to have issues getting a deal done, why did you make the damn trade anyway? I know you're trying to make your defense even stronger and even, veteran-led, but Hassan Reddick isn't one of those guys. He really slowed down last year. He was getting beat a lot, especially on the pass. He just didn't look well. And it's just one of those things with the Jets and with Hassan Reddick. It already feels like one of those Antonio Brown situations with the Raiders. Even though I know he played some preseason games with him, but not to even have him play a game yet or be in training camp yet, it's just another one of these things that feel like it's a changing guard of the way things are done nowadays. We've seen it in baseball, if you recall, with Garrett Crochet and I think Tyreek Schoolball, saying, if I'm traded, I want an extension wherever I go. And, those guys don't really do as much. Reddick, at least, is a veteran. Football, you try to get as much as you can, as quick as you can. You understand that with the difference. But the Jets are going to jet. Really, it's another distraction, guys, on on a team that already has so many. Remember when they came to OTAs, the thing about Rodgers, was he excused? Was he unexcused? He was, in a foreign country. He was supposed to be here. Saleh thought he was supposed to be here. So there's all these issues going around. Can Garrett Wilson and Rodgers coexist? As receivers there, can Sauce Gardner not have, critical penalties and make plays like he's supposed to? Can the running game get going for the Jets? Can the other receivers ball out? And then can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy? You have a fan base that's hungry to be a winner, and that was shattered right away in 4 snaps last year. So already the Jets are going through it. I know they did win their preseason opener against Washington, but no one cares about that. They all care about the offseason stuff and the off-the-field stuff. And Reddick and the Jets, it just seemed like a bad start because months and months of contract talks and still nothing's done. You're trading for a lame duck who just doesn't want to be there. And I was telling Isaiah this. I kind of feel bad, but I don't for the people who got the Hassan Reddick Jets jersey out there. Just imagine that. If they trade him within this week or something, you have someone that didn't even play for you, and you have that jersey. I can't, that just reminds me again of Antonio Brown. So, guys, I'll start off with Ben. What do you think with all this Reddick and the Jets fiasco going on here?
Sorry, it's so typical of them. I know Isaiah put out the New York Met, Mr. Met visual. It just feels like in New York sports, any team that ends with ETS, you got or TS, I guess, Giants, the Mets, the Jets. They always just seem to have something going on. Incompetent front offices, just something that will go wrong is essentially those three teams in a big picture. So, this is obviously big news. I mean, Hassan Reddick for months now has been pretty much clamoring that he wants to get paid. We've been seeing that for a lot of athletes currently this offseason, but they haven't figured something out. And I think that the longer this goes, the more that he's going to kind of use that as leverage specifically to try to do what he can to. I know with Matthew Judon, kind of a similar situation with the Patriots right now. We obviously had some remarks during training camp to Jerod Mayo. That wouldn't have flown with Bill Belichick, I will say that, when that happened. But, yeah, I mean, this guy is 10 sack the last 3 seasons plus a type of guy. He is a game changer, game wrecker. And, if you're the Jets, you cannot let this slip away. I mean, I would love it for them to happen because I'm a Patriots fan and they play my division. So we play them twice, and I would just love to see the Jets' downfall before it happens. But, I would also kind of feel bad for them because it kind of reminds me, if you look at it just like another out of sport reference, it's like you get like a shiny new toy and like you're loving this toy for so long and you've had it for a couple months and then you like throw it away or something happens and breaks apart or whatever. That's the Jets in a nutshell. And it just feels like with Aaron Rodgers, obviously, with the ceremony and stuff, the first game of last year, 4 or 5 plays in, boom, unfortunately he goes down. The offensive line was broken up and you had Zach Wilson. You started back to square one from last year and it was disaster. So, oh man, I'm so thankful I'm not a Jet fan. I don't know how they go through it. I have a bunch of buddies that do, and I know that obviously they've been us here and there, but with Hassan Reddick though, hopefully he gets the bag, he gets paid because man, he deserves it. He's one of the best edge rushers in the game.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts was simply when I heard this, it was what I said in my opening remarks about this, and that is the Jets are literally the Jets, the Giants, the Mets. They're literally that crying Mr. Met meme. I mean, they're a soap opera. I mean, if you had a 24/7 reality TV show about the Jets, the Giants, and the Mets, I guarantee you, like, everybody would tune in because just to see what's gonna unfold in this drama. Fellas, I found out something very interesting about Hassan Reddick. You do realize Hassan Reddick has been in the building once. He's been in the Jets building legitimately once. in his time with the Jets. That was at his introductory news conference back in April. He has not been in a Jets building ever since. He was there once for his press conference, and then that's it. Holding a Jets jersey, and then that's it. So imagine if they have to deal him again. He would be like Bill Belichick with the Jets, where he's only there for a day, and then he's out of New York despite being a Jet. So, yeah, this is just hilarious. I mean, like I told you guys, I hope Reddick gets the money because he's a very good pass rusher. I know because he completely wrecked my Niners' chances of going to the Super Bowl in that NFC Championship game. So I know what a beast he is. But yeah, I mean, I hope he gets paid. But I mean, for the Jets, like I hope they give it to him because it just doesn't make any sense. If a guy wants an extension, he's on his last year of his deal. And that's the reason why Philly traded him, because they're not going to give him that extension. Why would you promise when you made a trade? Why would you promise him that, we're going to get the extension done without getting the extension done? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, if you are going to trade for a guy, get the extension done before you trade for him, not promise him that you're going to get the deal done afterwards. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It makes you think that, all chaos is going to break if that happens. So I just think for the Jets, I hope they get it done because like what my Niners are dealing with the whole Brandon Ayuk thing, like you don't want that distraction. Like right now, it's not even football that's being talked about at 49ers camp. It's literally every day Ayuk. And then, for the Jets, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. So he's a very good edge rusher. He will make their defense even better than it is, and their defense is already amazing. And he would definitely be a difference maker for them, but they just have to get the deal done. And if I'm the Jets, just get it done because you have a Super Bowl team. Like, why break that up even before it gets started? So really hope they end up getting it done.
Yeah, it's comical, but then again, it's sad, and then you're just happy we're not all Jet fans in a way. James, one more before you move on to the Ayuk topic. I hope they get it done because that's my pick to go to the Super Bowl, the New York Jets. So I hope the Jets end up getting it done. So please, I don't want to end up having to change my pick before. Change it right now.
I was going to say, didn't you pick the Jets to make the AFC title game last year?
Against the Jaguars.
Against the Jaguars, yeah. And the Jets, that was done after 4 plays of the season, and then the Jaguars magnificently choked from the second seed to not making the playoffs. So, yeah.
They pulled an Eagles of the AFC.
That's right. That's the latest on Brandon Ayuk, man. 49ers want him back, but he is being resistant toward that. Now, there were 2 teams that offered him more money than the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Patriots and the Browns. I guess he didn't want to go to the Browns. They're already in cap hell. And then the Patriots, I think Ayuk and his camp didn't like the quarterback situation in New England. I think that's fair to say. But I feel like Ayuk is asking for just too much too quick. And then Pittsburgh offered him $28 million. Ayuk was to believe to be less satisfied from Pittsburgh's offer, but it is the best offer out there if he wants to maybe win. Although Ben did mention the carousel that might be the quarterback room of the Steelers this year, on and off the field with changing of Fields and Wilson. New England had the proposal of $32 million a year, and then the Browns were around that. But it's interesting to see what will happen with Brandon Ayuk. Again, Kyle Shanahan wants him. Lynch wanted him. It's an ongoing saga, and every day it's almost like something new comes up or a new rumor with Ayuk. The Browns did offer Amari Cooper and a 2nd rounder and a 5th rounder for Ayuk, and then he would have got a contract extension, which would have been wild there. Him and Watson together, I think, would be cool. But remember, they did get Jerry Jeudy, so I think that put him out. That put Cleveland out of the race for Ayuk. Plus, again, being in cap hell like they are. But man, this Ayuk stuff. I'll start with Isaiah and then go right to Ben after, because you're in the Bay Area. You're close to kind of close to the facility. What's the reaction with the 49er fans and Ayuk? Do they want him back, or do they just want this headache gone? And what do you think the 49ers could realistically get for Brandon Ayuk now?
Yeah, I think the reaction is that most Niner fans that you talk to, whether it be, I mean, obviously we want him back, but we're just sick of this. Like, we just want this issue to be over with and just let's get to football. I mean, the way that Brandon Ayuk is acting right now, guys, like Brandon Ayuk legitimately, he thinks he's Jerry Rice. I mean, the guy has had like 2 great years. He hasn't won anything, and he's asking for all this money. And not just he's asking for all this money, but you have to give me all this money. You have to give me $30 million plus a year. And plus, I have to like your quarterback situation and your team situation. Well, Brandon, you do realize you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You can't have both sides. Like, either you get your money and you play on a bad team, or you concede some of the money and you stay with the Niners, plain and simple. Like, that's why I just don't like this situation, because I mean, the Patriots were going to pay Ayuk $32 million. And I would have put him at, like, I think a top 2 receiver in the NFL or something like that. And he declined it because he doesn't like to play with Drake May. So if you don't like a Niners offer because it's not enough money, like, you had the Patriots offer, they were going to offer you $32 million. You would have been a top 2 paid receiver in the NFL, and you declined it because you didn't like the team. Well, then the Browns, they aren't that bad of a team. They just made the playoffs. They have Deshaun Watson coming back. They're loaded now. The Browns, I think we're going to pay him $30 million plus, not close to the Patriots offer, but I think it's like $30 million per year. And he declined it because he didn't want to go to a cold city like Cleveland. So it just doesn't make any sense. Like, you're trying to not to go to a cold place. You don't want to go to New England.
Wait. Isn't Pittsburgh a cold city too?
Yeah, but he wants to play with play for Mike Tomlin. So it's like, you don't like New England, even though they were going to pay you and make you one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL all time, because of their quarterback. You don't like Cleveland, even though they made the playoffs last year and they were going to give you $30 million, which is something the Niners are not going to give him because it's cold. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, this dude is acting like a super diva. He thinks he's like freaking Jerry Rice, even though he has legitimately done nothing except for just 2 good years in the NFL. Like, I'm just so sick of this that I want it to be over. Like, I wish that Ayuk did not have this much power. Like, I wish Ayuk had like 2-3 more years before he could be a free agent, because then we could just trade him away. But it's just at this point, like, it's just such a black cloud that's hanging over us that nobody's even talking about football now in the Bay. It's just Ayuk. And it's just like, man, I just hope it gets done or he gets traded. Like, it's just at this point where, please, just trade him away or just get it over with already. Like, this whole mess is just a bunch of nonsense at this point. And I mean, I like Ayuk. He's a good receiver. I think he's better than Debo, but you're asking for $30 million, and there's teams that wants to give it to you, but you're not wanting it because either of the team situation or the city situation. Like, make up your mind, man. Like, what do you want? Do you want money? Do you want a good fit? Do you want a good situation? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think sadly for Ayuk, and people aren't bringing this up, missing training camp, this could be like the Blake Snell situation and Jordan Montgomery situation where, in the NFL, like, even though it takes less time to ramp up, you still need that ramp up period. So I could see a situation where Ayuk has a down year because, he gets his money, but he comes in like after the first couple games of the season and then he's not ramped up. And then by the time he's ramped up, he gets hurt or something like that. So that's what I'm worried now about this whole Ayuk situation. But I'm just sick of it. Like, I hope they get rid of him already and trade him away.
Isaiah, before I go to Ben, I was thinking about this today, when I was reading more about the Ayuk news. Why not nip it in the butt right away and trade him before the draft? To me, I thought, well, Lynch and Shanahan, they were so confident in keeping him and keeping it going for one more year. we all saw the social media, posts and the IG stuff saying, "Oh, I want to play with Daniels, or I want to play with Stillers." Just nip it in the butt right away and trade him. But I'm trying to figure out what the hell happened there. Were they just too stronghold to keep him? Why not trade him right away and not go through all this? That's what I was wondering, Isaiah.
No, I think you have a valid point. Like, I think the Niners were just too strong-headed. I think that they thought the situation was like Nick Bosa and Debo's, where they did both requested a trade, but both ended up like realizing that the grass wasn't as greener outside of San Francisco. So that's why they both came back. But I just think with this Ayuk situation, I mean, he's a good player, but like I said, he's not like a Hall of Fame level receiver just yet, and he's acting like one, and it's just such a huge mess. Like I agree. I don't know why they didn't trade him before the draft. I would have done it, but also you got to keep in mind, James, he needed to have an extension worked out, and if he's not going to agree to it now, where like, you see, like, the Patriots were going to give him top 2 receiver money, and he turned it down because he didn't like the quarterback. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. The Browns, good team, $30 million a year. You would have been a top 5 paid wide receiver in the NFL. He turns it down because he doesn't like to go to Cleveland. Like, it's like he can't make up his mind, I think, at this point. And if I'm the Niners, sadly, what I would do, and I've been saying this, I would call Vegas up and say, hey, Devontae Adams for Brandon Ayuk. What do you say? I don't know if the Raiders would do it, but I mean, the Raiders would get a younger, faster receiver than Devontae Adams, but I would do that. It's just that the thing. I know you're saying no, James, but Ayuk fits more into the Raiders timeline than Devontae Adams. It feels like Devontae Adams wants to win now, but the Raiders aren't ready to win now, where Ayuk would be able to win with you guys 2 or 3 years down the line.
I can't see it because the 49ers would take on all that money for him. They have to pay Brock Purdy, and then Ayuk could be just a 3-year wonder when healthy. And I know he's from Nevada, but I just wouldn't like it. And also right away, I think there was a family member I have Ayuk after the Super Bowl saying, you should get traded go to the Raiders, basically. So that started right after the last game of the year, and you don't need that in already a mess that the Raiders are in. We'll talk about CeeDee Lamb, but Ben, what do you think about this Ayuk situation?
Yeah, typically with Isaiah's wild takes, I obviously disagree. I think me and James are kind of on the same wavelength on that. But Isaiah, I give you a lot of credit for this one. I 100% agree with you on your take regarding Brandon Ayuk. He is acting like he is Jerry Rice out there in terms of the way he's handling this situation. I mean, listen, he's a great, athletic, amazing receiver. He's dynamic. He does it all. But just the power that he's thinking that he has for this whole entire situation, I think is blasphemy to me. I mean, obviously my Patriots were currently in the mix for him. I wasn't thinking he was going to come here, but I was thinking, maybe they cheaped out because that's what Kraft and the organization has done with some of the other guys in the past in the last couple of years, is cheaping out on some of the receivers that we're looking at. DeAndre Hopkins was one, for instance, just recently. Calvin Ridley, another one. But Brandon Ayuk, we were about to pay him. I mean, Elliott Wolf gave a lot of credit. We were about to pay him as the fully guaranteed type of receiver. We got a very young team, but we got a really good defense that's going to be good for years. He would have been instantly the best receiver on the team too. So I understand that the quarterback situation isn't great with the Patriots currently right now, but then you look at the other teams that he's looking at, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, they're veteran quarterbacks that have some ability, talent. I mean, Russ has won a Super Bowl. Justin Fields is a top pick when he was picked in drafts. So, I mean, he has ability. And then the Steelers have a really good defense. Then the Browns. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, Isaiah, the Browns, yeah, I mean, they're going to probably be an AFC contender this year. Defensively, they have a very good front. They got really good skill players around. Of course, Nick Chubb's going to come back from his injury this upcoming year. yeah, I mean, you can't eat your cake and eat it too, for a guy like him. I just, you know, part of me, it's almost like a leverage play in a way. It's just like, all right, I'm going to kind of look around these different type of teams. If I can get an overall offer that I want to get, sure, I'll take it. But I think he's going back to San Francisco when it's all said and done. I think that there's just not something specifically for him that he wants to go for at this point in time. The Niners currently have a chance to win the Super Bowl as a currently constructed right now. So I think that it was more, I wouldn't say it was more of an act because I think that's a little too harsh. But I will say it's just like, why did you request a trade and you saw a bunch of these teams that you're interested in going to possibly, but then you backed up because of different situations? It just, something just doesn't add right. Because typically when you kind of see something out there, right, especially as an athlete, you're going to go for it. I mean, with Calvin Ridley, for instance, this offseason, the Patriots and the Titans were factors in this. And he decided to go to the Titans because Massachusetts has tax situations going on with the state. So the family and stuff, they didn't want to go over there for tax situations, stuff like that. They wanted to go to Tennessee, a very kind of similar situation with their quarterback and Will Levis, a young quarterback. So it wasn't because of the Patriots themselves, because the Patriots offered him, I think, decent money. It was about just what felt comfortable for him. I don't think Brandon Ayuk has taken that initiative, what's feeling comfortable for him. I think it's more of an act. And I think that everybody at this point in time is sick and tired of it. And we'll see in terms of how it goes. I mean, I was going to ask you guys this. Which situation between Hassan Reddick and Brandon Ayuk gets done first?
Oh, man.
I was thinking about this when you guys were talking. I'm like, we're talking about Hassan Reddick and we're talking about Brandon Ayuk, and they're both pretty much in similar situations right now in terms of getting paid. I mean, I do think Hassan Reddick obviously isn't making it the massive act that he's doing right now, but they both want to get paid. So I'm curious. I'd probably go with Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ayuk. The Jets one just looks more messier because according to Ian Rappaport, they haven't even had contract talks since April. So, it's been a very long time. I know the Niners and Ayuk have talked recently, but I think according to Mike Garafolo, he reported today that there wasn't any progress. The Niners offered him a new offer. There wasn't any progress on that. So I think the Ayuk situation probably gets ended soon, but I don't think it's going to be a re-signing. I think it's going to be a trade. I think what the Niners are waiting is I think they're waiting on Pittsburgh to up their offer. I just think they know at the end of the day that Ayuk wants $30 million. You're not trying to give him $30 million. You're not going to budge. Pittsburgh's already offered what they offered, but it was a really bad offer of just draft picks. I think the Niners want a proven player in that deal right now, which makes sense. So I think that's why we're at that standstill right now. But I'm going to go Ayuk.
Yeah, I'll go Ayuk too.
Isaiah, you know what I think could get it done? Give Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Niners. I think that you have him for a swap, and that Niners secondary. I know James is shaking his head because that Niners defense is already loaded, but you put him on that back end with the front that they have. I mean, that team goes from contention to Super Bowl instant contention. He's that good of a defensive guy.
We do need a safety. That's true.
Yep. I think that they would budge for something like that. You put a couple picks in Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think now you're talking.
Yeah, I wouldn't think the Steelers would do that, but you have to give something
exactly.
to get something.
Yep.
And they've always been a defensive team, and nothing breaks them unless it's retirement or something in the franchise goes awry and James Harrison goes other places. But all scenarios might happen though.
You know what's funny about this whole Ayuk situation? Remember how Ayuk said he didn't want to go to New England because of the quarterback situation, right? So you want to go to Pittsburgh with a declining Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who went turnover happy in the preseason game. That makes sense. At least with Drake May, he didn't turn the football over. I mean, Justin Fields was turning it over all the time with the Bears in the preseason. Oh my God!
Hey, you want the ball in the air or you want it on the ground?
Exactly. Because and sorry to cut you off, James. The defenses are both good on both sides. the elements aren't the factor here. It has to be Mike Tomlin. There's no other reason why. I remember early on when there was kind of that little speculation and stuff like that. Brandon Ayuk and Mike Tomlin kind of had like a kind of conversation or whatever, I think on X or Twitter or something like that. It has to be it because you look at the other situations. He's backing out of this. He's backing out of that. It has to be that. It's a coach.
Yeah, that's the only reason you can definitely say. So let's talk about CD Lamb and, well, mostly about Jerry Jones. Remember last week at Oxnard here in California, they had the training camp and the bleachers were pretty empty. I know it gets warm out here in California, but there were no star power. There was no fans in attendance, and Jerry's there, mentioning about CD Lamb. What did he mention right away? He mentioned like, oh, we don't need to get it done right away. We don't have any urgency to get it done. Funny how a week goes by and he changes that tune. They had the preseason game against the Rams in Inglewood, and before the game on the Cowboys pregame show, he mentioned nobody appreciates CD being on the field more than I do. Let's see, what else did he say? He also mentioned that he wouldn't be on the field because he wanted to see the young guys playing. And then he mentioned, someone asked him whether he's missed or not, and Jerry mentioned that CD, you're missed, okay? Like almost like a desperate attempt, like, hey, we need you. I don't really want to say it, but we really, 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 really need you. And then he doubled down on that though and said, but you're not missed out here competing, and it doesn't put any pressure any place on us. So it's on you. If you need to be here. I'm not telling you, but you should be here. And quickly Lamb put LOL on his X account.
Yep.
And it's just a mess. Man, I know Jerry Jones was trying to smooth this open, but I don't know how much urgency to get a deal done extension for him. But I know he did mention he wouldn't be out there for a snap on Sunday, gives the young players a chance to play. But the bottom line is that, no, there isn't urgency for both either Prescott or CD Lamb. So basically it's all like, hey, this is going to be a prove-it year for both. That's what I got from what Jerry Jones said in this interview. So I'll go to Ben first. What do you think about the comments Jerry Jones has made about CD Lamb, and what do you think will end up happening? Same question for Isaiah. Go right to it.
Yeah, it's a disaster. Because the Cowboys currently right now have to figure out how to pay three of their main guys: Dak Prescott, CD Lamb, and Micah Parsons. And that overall just the vibe in terms of there's no urgency ahead. I mean, does he realize that he is one, if not the best overall receiver in the NFL? I mean, he's up there with like Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, all those guys. CD Lamb is a freak of nature. He is that good. And you're saying we have no urgency to pay him? I mean, and then he kind of, like you mentioned, James, that he tried to kind of backpedal and say, oh, like, we really need him bad. But then, on the other hand, it's just like, well, if you're going to be out there, be out there. But he wants to get paid. He deserves to get paid. You're one of the best receivers in the NFL. I mean, what do you expect for him to react to what Jerry's trying to say? Jerry's getting up there in age. I think personally he has to kind of look himself in the mirror and be like, we got to do something. Because you're saying that there's no urgency when it's the off season and the regular season's coming up in a couple months. You got to figure something out. I mean, there's no other way, because you'll have teams on that phone right away to ask potentially what would it take to get a CD Lamb to a so-and-so type team. I mean, there would be, I'd say 95% of the teams would be having calls for a guy like CD Lamb. I just, Dallas would be foolish to let this guy go. I know that Schefter today, I was watching Sports Center at 6 p.m. Eastern time today, and they're talking about the situation, and CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys seem to, according to Shefty, feel like they're going to get some type of deal done. But until I see it otherwise, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be out there and open. All I will say to me right now, guys, is I would be stunned if the core three between Parsons, Dak, and CeeDee Lamb are together for the next 3 to 5 years. I think there's definitely going to be something where one or two of the guys is going to be on the move. I know Dak Prescott this offseason was saying that he might be open to new change of scenery. I think that you get a bag somewhere. Specifically, I know he obviously hasn't won anything. I think he personally, to myself, is a bit overrated, but that's just me. But he's still a great overall quarterback and would be a tremendous fit for a team that needs a quarterback. And then Michael Parsons. Michael Parsons is going to be up there pretty soon up in his contract. You're going to have to pay him. He's one of the most dynamic, freakish athletes on the defensive end. So it's not just CeeDee Lamb, the situation that he's talking about right now. It's the two other main guys. And I think he has to realize that. And it's so typical Dallas Cowboys, too, because they're just a organization just like the Giants and all these NFC East type teams where the front offices they're awful. They're just awful. So I hope that CeeDee Lamb leaves just for the drama and to see the Cowboys fans lose their minds. I would, as Isaiah says, grab your popcorn already and stuff like that, because that's something you grab your popcorn for. CeeDee Lamb, yeah, we're talking a different animal here. So we'll see what happens, but it's very intriguing to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, my reaction to this is simple. Bill Belichick cannot come fast enough to save the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, like, it's a mess. Like, the Cowboys are just so incompetent. They need Bill Belichick. That's what they need. They should have fired McCarthy. Everybody and their grandma thought they were going to fire McCarthy. Somehow, some way, McCarthy keeps his job. I don't know how you keep your job after giving away 42 points or whatever it was and getting blown out by the Packers when you were a 12-point favorite in that game. You end up losing by 20. Like, it makes no sense. Any coach would have been fired. And then now this situation. I mean, first, Dak Prescott. Let me address that. Dak Prescott, fellas, is a free agent after this season. He cannot be franchise tagged. So he's going to be, if they don't get a deal done, an unrestricted free agent. Cooper Rush is a free agent as well. You're not going to franchise tag him because you're not going to give him $20 to $25 million since he's always just been a backup. So that leaves you with one quarterback who has a contract for the season after this year. Trey Lance. With what he's looking at preseason, Jerry, do you really expect Trey Lance, the guy who freaking on an out route in practice threw the ball 6 yards out of bounds, do you really expect Trey Lance to be your starting quarterback? I mean, as a guy that doesn't like the Cowboys, I hope that happens. I hope that happens for the Cowboys where Trey Lance is their starting quarterback. I mean, that would be absolutely hilarious if that were to happen. But to CeeDee Lamb, I mean, the guy's 25 years old. Last year he had 1,749 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns. If you look at the Cowboys receiver room right now, CeeDee Lamb had 1,700 yards receiving, and everybody else didn't even have close to 500 yards. I mean, that's how big of a drop-off that is. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Michael Gallup is retired. I think he's gone.
Yep.
I can't name of anybody else outside of CeeDee Lamb. So,
Brandon Cooks still?
Do they have Brandon Cooks?
They had him, I know, last year, I think. Brandon Cooks.
I think they might have him, but he's kind of like on the downside of his career right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's a pretty decent, too. I mean, I thought they did a lot more, though, than beyond 500 yards.
Stephon Gilmore's gone as well. He's a free agent. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they're not bringing him back, but I mean the Cowboys need CeeDee Lamb not because he's super talented and young, but because he's literally their only competent receiver out there. Like you're not going to build a franchise around an aging Brandon Cooks. You're not going to build your franchise around. I don't even know anybody else outside of CeeDee Lamb in their wide receiver room.
Want to know something? How hilarious this would be is Brandon Ayuk goes to Dallas.
Ooh.
I mean,
so Brandon Cooks is still there.
Mhm.
Kavontae Turpin is one of those young guys that they have. Jalen Brooks, Jalen Tolbert, Ryan Flournoy, but yeah, not much after Lamb for sure.
Yeah, like
I didn't realize it was that bad.
Look at their wide receiving corps. If they don't have CeeDee Lamb, your best wide receiver, it's going to be Brandon Cooks and Kavontae Turpin. Like, no disrespect to Kavontae Turpin. He might end up being a good receiver in the league, but he's not CeeDee Lamb. So that's why the Cowboys have to bring him back. It's because he's literally not only the best receiver on their team, he's their best receiver by like 50 miles on their team. So you have to bring him back because if you don't, the Cowboys will go from a team that could compete for maybe a playoff spot to maybe being a 5-win team if you don't have him. Because who's Dak Prescott going to throw the ball to? Brandon Cooks is going to be doubled. Kavontae Turpin and then a bunch of rookies. Like, it's going to be
Tony
a bad.
Pollard, that loss for Tony Pollard, that's a big loss.
Yeah.
I think personally he was the second biggest threat. And then the Dalton Schultz too. And he left to the Texans. Was it this offseason or was he on the Texans last year? I don't remember.
Last year was his first year.
Yeah.
You mentioned Michael Gallup too retired.
Yeah, he retired. Yep.
He signed a free agent deal with the Raiders. He was in training camp, and then all of a sudden, like one of the first weeks, he was done. So he was there a while too, and they really, he really got some balls because Lamb was getting them.
But yeah. Jerry's just like, I mean, first of all, you don't alienate your receivers, your star like that by saying like, oh, there's no urgency to get it done, because then it will make him seem like, oh, then I'm not a priority. Then why should I stay with your franchise? So like, it's just like, it's ridiculous. And yeah, Ben, you mentioned in the chat, they got Ezekiel Elliott too. So that was, I think, their biggest move.
I call him the short game king at this point in time because that's what he only could do for the Patriots last year, was you just put him at the goal line and get a yard because that guy just can't break a secondary tackle now to save his life. I mean, you just get a hand on him at the line of scrimmage, he's going down.
He's the definition of washed, I really think. Yeah, definitely. So we'll keep following what happens there for sure with the Cowboys and the three guys they have to eventually pay, like Ben mentioned. Another issue, but this time, well, we'll stay in the West Coast and in Inglewood. But the NCAA announced a 4-year show cause order for former Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh for impermissible contact with recruits and players during the COVID-19 pandemic, effectively banning him from college athletics until 2028 of August. Harbaugh's attorney mentions Tom Mars responded to the NCAA by blasting them, saying, quote, "The way I see it from Coach Harbaugh's perspective, today's committee on infractions decision is like being in college and getting a letter from your high school saying you've been suspended because you didn't sign your yearbook." And also he mentions, and if I were in Coach Harbaugh's shoes and khakis and had an $80 million contract as the coach of the Chargers, I wouldn't pay any attention to the findings of Kangaroo Court, which claims to represent the principle of the nation's most flagrant repeat and violated of the nation's antitrust laws. Now, what this is all stemming from, of course, from I think 2020, Harbaugh bought, I think, breakfast or a cheeseburger for a recruit, and that was a no-no. And now, of course, everything is going on with NILs and everything's pretty out there. Also, another thing too, I know I hate the Chargers and whatever, but the way Harbaugh was at the podium, I think Sunday or Monday, he mentioned that, I've grown up, I was grew up in a family that, was all about honesty, trust, not lying, and not, being a respectful person. There's no damn way he didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, about all the recruiting violations, about what happened with Connor Stallings and the spying, where he was on the opponent's other side. He was in a Central Michigan hat and glasses while he was scouting Michigan State from the other sideline. And they have a whole list of what was going on, along with Moore, the head coach of Michigan now. And Jim Harbaugh mentioned that he had no knowledge of any of it. And I think he's lying out of his shoes, definitely there. But to be as ignorant as he was at the podium today, mentioning all that, that was just frustrating to hear, because the way he left the 49ers, what he's done at Michigan, you feel like he hasn't really grown up yet as a head coach. But we'll see how this affects him as he goes on. It also reminds me, too, of when Pete Carroll left USC, just in time before those sanctions came from Reggie Bush and others who got involved with, agents paying the families for houses and cars and clothes and all that. Pete Carroll left to go to the Seahawks, I believe, in 2009 or 10, just before the sanctions came up. And funny thing, Harbaugh left Michigan after winning national championship before these sanctions came to go be the Chargers head coach. So, guys, I just feel like Harbaugh is lying out of his tooth. He's lying to all of us. No way you are the head coach and not knowing what the hell's going on all around you. And then the fact that there were phone messages between Moore and Stallings and Harbaugh, but all of a sudden that phone isn't anywhere to be seen. Ben, I know this would remind you of something, but when the whole Deflategate was going on with the cell phone being destroyed, and the conversations that allegedly were going on between the Ball Boys and Brady, it just, again, it reminded me of what's going on with Harbaugh, and
unfortunately, that was tough.
And not really knowing what the hell's going on, mentioning that he had no knowledge of what was going on. Isaiah, I'll start off with you. What do you think about all this that happened with Harbaugh and the punishment? Do you think he just got off free without any punishment, basically?
Yeah, he did. This is another Pete Carroll situation, like you mentioned. Let me break it down. So the first punishment that he got the first 3 games was because he violated NCAA rules, which were before the NIL came into effect, where you couldn't give any sort of money value stuff to recruits. And so I think he took a recruit for dinner. Normally in the NCAA, and this is why I don't like the NCAA before NIL, is the guy took him out to dinner. He paid for his dinner. I think it was like a cheeseburger. He paid for his dinner. And then that's why Harbaugh was in trouble, because I guess the recruit was supposed to pay for it. Because then it would seem like you're offering money to the recruit. It just makes no sense. Like, the first suspension, I totally disagree with it. Like, I just think that Harbaugh was trying to do a nice thing for the kid. Like, he's just buying him dinner. Like, it's not like he's bribing the guy to come to his school. Like, it makes no sense. The guy's hungry. I totally disagree with it. The second one, I do agree with you, James. Like, I think there's no way in hell that Harbaugh did not know about it. James and Ben, if you guys remember, when the Astros got caught for cheating, there was this big investigation that went on, and then the investigation results were, it was published, and manager AJ Hinch and also Jeff Lunau, the president of baseball operations, they both said that, like, oh, we're so sorry, but they both denied knowing about it. It's like, how do you not know about it? Like, the manager's involved in the dugout like every single day, every single minute, every single hour. And then the GM is the one that puts together the roster, and he's always on the field and in the clubhouse. So, like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, Jim Harbaugh was the head coach at Michigan. He had to have known about it. Like, you're not going to not know about what's going on inside your program. It's your freaking program. So, I do agree with you. I just think Harbaugh did lie out of his pants. The attorney, however, was an absolute savage because he basically wrecked the NCAA, saying like, "Oh, if I'm Harbaugh, I have $80 million. I don't need to worry about it. Like, you're you're nothing." Like, basically saying that. Like, that was a crazy response. I didn't expect that, but yeah, I agree. I think Harbaugh's definitely lied out of his pants for that. I think that he got off scotch-free. But I mean, it's typical NCAA though, James, because the NCAA takes so long with their investigations to the point where sometimes coaches that committed penalties like 4 or 5 years ago, they get punished like 4 years after like they left the school or they go somewhere else. So I think if you want like a guy to be held accountable, then I think the NCAA, they need to do a better job of expediting those investigations, because you can't have like something like this with Michigan where like you did the investigation, but then you didn't finish it until after the season. Like everybody knew Harbaugh was going to go to the NFL. Like that's the thing I have with the whole NCAA is it takes so long for you to conclude your investigations. Like it just takes so long to the point where nobody will ever get held accountable for it. Oh, Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't really personally know much about this story until you guys talked about it. But from what it sounds like a situation where he is going through a lot currently. There's obviously a lot of repercussions in terms of the last couple of years, and obviously kind of what he's dealing with. Obviously, he's not coaching college anymore, so of course, it's not really relevant to him at this point in time. I mean, it's still relevant, but it's not affecting him overall in terms of his coaching. But I do think that there could be some stuff that's ahead in terms of punishment. We'll see specifically if he's going to get anything, if anything. We see kind of these leagues now with, all these guys, these coaches, these athletes getting kind of away with some things that, they should be getting punished for. And they don't. They typically maybe get like a fine or something, if anything. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that there's definitely going to be something ahead for him. I'm not sure when it's going to be. But hopefully with his overall team with the Chargers, they have a good season. Hopefully this is not a massive distraction to him if it's aren't already for him currently at this time. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. We will keep track of that. Again, seems like he got away with it. Let's get to our MLB team reports. I know, Ben, you got to go pretty soon. So let's get to your Red Sox. I know they've had a interesting go at it as of late.
Yeah. Really quickly, I'm going to go through my team reports before I get out of here. I appreciate you guys having me on. But the Red Sox have had kind of a slow start the second half. Right out of the gate, they got swept against the Dodgers. That wasn't fun. And then they lost 2 out of 3 in Colorado. Now, Colorado is kind of a funny place to play in. There just seems to be a lot of crazy games. You look at the Braves, just blew a 7-2 lead in the 8th inning the other day against the Rockies in Colorado. Rockies came back, won that game. Crazy stuff happens there. But regardless of the fact, that wasn't good. But, they kind of got themselves back on track a little bit. But then the Astros came in, and I know obviously the Astros give us fits. They've been giving us fits for years outside of 2018. But they're currently right now the best team in the AL. Just kind of the way that they're playing. I mean, heck, they matched up on the Rays again today. And the Red Sox pitching in the second half is really starting to kind of, I want to say show their true colors, but it's kind of starting to regress a little bit more. They definitely were a bit over their head in that first half. And as much fun as it was, I was expecting kind of a little bit of regression, but it's kind of coming at like the worst time where we're kind of still in the playoff race as it currently stands. And a game like tonight was a much needed type of win, especially against the Texas Rangers. I know they obviously been struggling, but our month that we have the month that we have currently right now, guys, is brutal. I mean, we're just having teams left and right between the Astros. We had them twice this month. We got after the Rangers, we got the Orioles for 4, and then next week we got Houston again. We got Arizona Diamondbacks at home. They're really, really tough this year. And then we have the Blue Jays, who, you never know what happens to the Blue Jays. Obviously, they're not as good, but yeah, it's a really tough month. It's definitely kind of like last year's August, where, funny enough, we were kind of in the mix for a little bit in that playoff mix, but then the pitching started coming down a little bit, and then we really started to get exposed against the better teams in August, and September really didn't mean much. So, yeah, obviously tonight was massive, a walk-off win. It was almost going to suck because we were up 3-1. Corey Seager, the Steph Curry corner, Isaiah ties it up, 3-3 in that 7th, 8th inning. Our bullpen has also been a massive letdown too. Now we did get Chris Martin and some other guys back. Liam Hendricks is coming back too. We got Tristan Casas coming back hopefully soon too, and Devers is obviously starting to kind of cool down a little bit with the bat. So, but a big one tonight. Rob Refsnyder, a walk-off, and Jarren Duran. Obviously, outside of that, of course, for those that don't know, he had a homophobic slur that, of course, got viral. Of course, the video I will not talk about. It's obviously something I'm going to keep off the airwaves here. But as much as a Jarren Duran fan that I am, I'm disappointed in terms of his overall actions. Obviously, he's battled with mental situations last year in the past. Of course, his backstory, if you guys want a chance to read it, it's very fascinating. Yeah, he just didn't help his cause at all. I know that obviously the fan kind of heckled him at first, but then he kind of, turned back and said something that, of course, blew up, and for the right specifically for him to get suspended for 2 games, which of course included tonight's game and of course tomorrow's game. And I know that he was obviously trying to play the whole entire 162. Of course, that's really cool to see for any type of player. But, obviously you're going to get punished for something like this, in a certain situation like this. So, yeah, but obviously the Red Sox, they need these wins. Hopefully they can win tomorrow to get the series. They would win the 2 series that they would have against Texas and then 4 against Baltimore. And I think specifically you got to at least split at max. You're obviously in a very tight race. You got Seattle currently right now coming for you. You got Kansas City and Minnesota right ahead of you. But the good news for the Red Sox is they actually play each other currently right now. So there might be a little bit of help where if the Red Sox can win some of these games coming up this week, you could at least get a little bit of ground covered up. You're now only down 2 games because the Royals lost today. So you won a game and you gain a game with Kansas City losing, which is massive. So as tough as this past weekend was with everything on and off the field, hopefully this week they can kind of start a new trend to just win some series and get themselves back on track to hopefully, have a good rest of this month, because if they start to keep on treading water and things kind of start to slide a bit, it's just going to be like last year all over again, sadly. So,
yeah.
Thanks, guys, once again. Really quick, James.
Oh, do you have any other announcements and when the next Kicking It with Cruz will be on?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I was thinking about that a couple of days ago. I think probably end of this week. I was thinking maybe either like a Saturday or Sunday, possibly. Maybe after preseason, the week 2. We can start to recap some of that, and we can recap some of the week 1 as well too. And of course, I did mention to you guys too that, if you guys wanted to get the chance to tonight, because I know that obviously I saw the script before, but we did the NBA schedule release coming up pretty soon, but there's obviously some games that they already just announced. And that was opening night with my Celtics. They'll be having reunited against the New York Knicks. So that'll be very, very fun. And then I think the Lakers, your Lakers play the same night too, I think against Minnesota, which would think would be really cool. So then you got Christmas Day that Shams reported as well too. So if you guys want to get into that, after I leave, by all means, go ahead. I'll listen in, and Kicking It with Cruz hopefully by the end of this week. So thanks, guys, and I'll definitely talk to you guys later, and have a good night.
All right, Ben, check you later. Isaiah, I'll go with the Angels for my team report. It'll be real quick. Tonight they lost against.
You can go a long rant about them.
It's not worth it. They lost 4-2. They couldn't get anything offensively going. Adele and Moniak did homer each, but only solo shots, of course, there. And the really bad part about tonight, Logan O'Hoppe, their catcher, who has really been struggling at the plate last week in New York and in Washington. On the weekend, he exited the game with knee soreness, so we'll see how long he's out. Of course, catchers need their needs. Need their knees. There you go. Try to say that 7 times in a row. Zach Plesac was released. He barely got an opportunity with the Angels from AAA Salt Lake City. Remember, he was trying to come back and be a part of this rotation, and he's gone just like that. I'm pissed off about that. I thought he was going to be something for them in the rotation that needs help. Remember, Detmers and Sandoval are gone. Sandoval because of injury, and Detmers, remember, he was supposed to be, an ace of the future of the Angels. He's still in Salt Lake City AAA, and he is having an awful 2 months down at AAA Salt Lake City. I mean, he hasn't won a game, I don't think, yet in AAA. He's been awful. So he's been terrible in that case. Of course, everybody knows about Mike Trout being out for the rest of the season. For the schedule, the Angels, again, lost 2 out of 3 in Washington Friday and Saturday in extra innings, and that was really, really frustrating. 3-2 Friday, and then 5-4 on Saturday. They did get the early win, 6-4 in Washington, to avoid being swept. Now, before that, they had a series in the Bronx. First game was rained out. They split the doubleheader. Zach Neto in that game had 8 RBIs. In that doubleheader, had 8 RBIs. 6 in the second one, and then 2, of course, in the first one. And then the Angels did hold on to win 9-4 on that Thursday to take the 2 out of 3 games from the Yankees, which was a shocker. They did take 2 out of 3 from the Mets to start the month as well at home. Now, again, they play 2 more games with the Blue Jays. They have Thursday off, and then the homestand continues with the Atlanta Braves coming in for a 3-game series. I should be at Friday's game. I will cover Saturday's game on Halos in the Infield. That's where you can find me as well. And then the Angels will be on the road again for a 3-city trip to Kansas City, Toronto, and Detroit before ending the month of August against the Seattle Mariners. So wins could be had here, but some timely injuries. Luis Rengifo. Remember, I kept talking about him, how he's always a piece that might get traded, and when he's playing, he's really, really good. I mean, he could be a fringe all-star, but too many times his right wrist would hurt him when he would try to swing and after swing. I believe this is the third and final time where he felt pain, and finally Ron Washington convinced him, hey, you need to get surgery done, like I mentioned, like I predicted. Like, you need to get this done, and, we need you for next year for your contract year coming up. So, man, there's a lot of issues for the Angels right now. Again, a lot of starters that are out. The bullpen, and that was one of the strengths, and lately it has not been. Ben Joyce, he had a good against the Mets. Remember, he threw 105 to strike out JD Martinez, whatever. The next week, he blew a couple of saves. It's been unfortunate to give up leads. Ben Krause, Krause, I'll just say his last name. He started off with 2 wins, and now he's lost the last 4 decisions he's had. And then Matt Moore had a great season last year, and then was, waived to Cleveland, and he came back to the Angels, and he's had an awful, awful season. He's given up so many bad innings and so many runs in bad spots. Brandon Drury has been awful. He's been often injured this year, unable to get a rhythm going, and his hitting, he's well below 200 in batting average. Just a total night and day from what he was last season. And the other struggles, of course, with Moniak and Adele. I'll start with Moniak, your boy. Moniak just is not hitting for a consistent basis. He finally got over 200, and he did have a home run, but he's not showing that first pick potential, and it's unfortunate. Joe Adele, his defense has improved definitely under Washington and the other tutelage from the coaching staff, but his consistent average hitting is not there. He is clutch in situations where he does hit home runs and gets the stolen bases and extra base hits, but again, no consistency from the Angels anywhere. All right, Isaiah, whatever team you want to start with, do it.
Well, let's start with my so-called third team, the Texas Rangers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to declare the Texas Rangers are officially dead. They're done. Their season is over. They're not making the playoffs this year. I know I was talking dynasty with the Rangers before the season. All of that is gone. Goodbye. Who knows if Bruce Bochy's going to come back? He may retire. That was what I was hearing on the streets. Everybody in the offense has either been hurt or just had a really bad year. I know Seager has really come alive as of late. But everybody else, Garcia is just bad this year. Simeon's not his usual self. He's striking out a bunch. The pitching, Nathan Eovaldi's hurt again. Max Scherzer went to the IL with shoulder fatigue. Everybody's just hurt, or they're not good this year. And Jonah Heim, who was the Rangers starting catcher last year, well, guess what, James? He got benched by Bruce Bochy. Carson Kelly is now the Rangers starting catcher. So it's just been bad. It's been a bad season. It's been one of those seasons where you're just like, yeah, the Rangers won it last year. Just wipe the bad year from this year, and let's get on to 2025. And I hope Texas just spends this offseason because the bullpen's been bad. Leclerc's been unplayable. You don't have a middle relief guy that you can depend on if your starters don't go deep into the games. And then the rotation needs help. And definitely the lineup, you got to get a couple bats to kind of lengthen the lineup, especially, Evan Carter's got a chronic back injury, James, and that's not good for a young guy like him. You and I both know that those back injuries can haunt you for the rest of your career. So definitely feel bad for him. Hopefully he gets it going. And James, I want to ask you, what is it with the Rangers and back injuries? First it was Carter with the back injury, and then Langford had some back issues that sidelined him for a week and a half. Like, these Rangers young guys just have so many back injuries. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. I hope it's not chronic. Hope it gets fixed because you definitely want to see Carter and Langford on the field as soon as possible. And then the last thing about the Rangers is Jack Leiter, the stellar young phenom. He's actually gonna, according to Chris Young, the GM, he's actually going to be pitching in the bullpen starting in September. So hopefully that goes better than him when it comes to him starting. And then James, guess what? Jacob deGrom threw a bullpen session today, and this was, I think, his final bullpen session, and he'll face hitters starting next week. There's optimism for him to come back in 2024, but if I'm the Texas Rangers, and I know this might be an unpopular opinion, I would not play him in 2024. I would save him, let him get as much rest as possible, start fresh in 2025. The season is already done. Might as well start fresh. I know deGrom wants to just get back on the field. He's itching to, but it's just give yourself more time, rest up, work on your mechanics, and then you could end up being great in 2025. But in terms of the A's, they've been one of the best teams in baseball since the All-Star break. They're 13-8 since the break. They took 2 out of 3 from the struggling Toronto Blue Jays. They won 1-0 on Saturday. Brent Rooker had the only run of the game with a solo homer. And then yesterday they won 8-4. The offense came alive. Zach Geloff hit a 3-run homer. JG Bleday had a massive 2-run bomb in that game to lead the A's. Mason Miller came back, James, my boy. Mason Miller, the greatest thing to ever happen to baseball in the last 20 years, came back, and he struck out George Springer, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Darton Varsho on struck them all out on Saturday. Springer on a nasty 104-mile-an-hour fastball. Guerrero 103, and then Darren Varsho with a nasty slider. So looks like Mason Miller is back and back to being his true self, which is huge for the A's. The A's upcoming week, they play at the Mets at Citi Field, so hopefully we can make the Mets do a bunch of this this upcoming weekend or this upcoming week for 3-game series. Paul Blackburn, James, is actually going to be pitching for the Mets against the A's, his former team, on, I believe, on Tuesday, tomorrow's game. So that should definitely be a fun reunion. And then the A's come home for their final couple of series in August at the Coliseum. They'll be playing the Tampa Bay Rays, two of the worst attendance teams in all of baseball, coming together for a weekday series at the Coliseum. I'm actually going to be at two of those games, James. So I'll be seeing A's, Rays, and the last time the A's played the Rays at the Coliseum, guess what? It was a night game. There were a total of 3,500 people. So we'll see how it is. We'll see how it is this time around. But I'll be going to a couple of those games, and then they play the Brewers after that for a fun 3-game series. After that, I may be at one of those games. We shall see. But yeah, I mean, Oakland, the young guys are playing great. The offense, you're getting contributions from everybody. Geloff, Bleday, Butler, Rooker, everybody's contributing. I want to see Tyler Soderstrom come back, because he was actually having a really nice time in the major leagues before he got injured. So I do want to see him before 2024 ends. But yeah, very, very impressed with the A's. The pitching, however, I do want to see the starters step up. You do see the young guys, it's been inconsistent though, but they are getting better. So you do love to see it. And then let's talk about the disastrous Phillies. They keep losing. I mean, James, they have lost 14 of their last 20. They have lost 7 of their last 8 series. They're coming off a road trip in which they lost 2 out of 3 to the Mariners. They won 2 out of 3 against the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is crazy. And then they went to Arizona and lost 3 out of 4 and got spanked in like 3 of those games. I think one of the games they lost like 11-1. Another one they lost 12-5. And then, it was just bad. The starting pitching. And if you guys haven't checked out the NBC Sports Philadelphia Phillies post-game shows, they're absolutely hilarious. They're always ripping the Phillies, and it's just so funny to see them rip the Phillies. And Ricky Patalico, who's an analyst for NBC Sports Philadelphia, he put it really well. The problem with the Phillies is not just are they losing, it's you don't know which of the units is going to struggle. Like first, it was the offense. They couldn't hit. And the offense could hit, but then the bullpen would blow games. Then when the offense and the bullpen are going, now the starting pitching can't pitch and have quality outings. So it's just everywhere for this team. You don't know what's going wrong on any given basis for the Phillies, and it's just so frustrating. Thankfully, they have an easier schedule coming up with the Nationals, the Marlins for 2 starting tomorrow. Then they have the Nationals over the weekend, and then they play. I think they play the Nationals again, but in Philly. So it's definitely going to be an easier schedule. But the thing with the Phillies is, look, you've given up the first seed to the Dodgers. They've overtaken you. You're in the second seed, but by a little bit, and Milwaukee could overtake you now because I think they're only like 1 or 2 games back of you. So the Phillies have done this to themselves. They've struggled. They've dug themselves a deep hole, and now they got to climb out of it. And the Phillies, first, it was the hitting they're not hitting, they're not scoring runs, the bullpen's blowing it, and now they can't pitch. So And I think Ranger Suarez is on the IL. Taijuan Walker's coming back, I think, tomorrow, James. So can't wait to see what he does and how he fares. But definitely very concerning for the Phillies. But hopefully this easier schedule coming up the next week and a half will propel them to better results.
I was watching, I think 3 out of the 4 of those Diamondback games against the Phillies. And man, I noticed there was a lot of Philly fans there. And I think it was Saturday night, I want to say, is when the Diamondbacks gave out the replica National League Championship rings. And those things looked legit. I know they weren't real, but man, they looked really good. Of course, having the Phillies there and taking out 3 out of 4, that speared the Diamondbacks forward even more. And let's now get to the next topic for the MLB segment. So the Atlanta Braves are on the West Coast trip. They took on the Giants tonight. First game out of the 4-game series. There was a extra inning Travis d'Arnaud sacrifice fly that gave the Braves a win, 1-0. But again, that was only run. But look at the numbers here, and thank you for putting that on. I could not believe it with Chris Sale and Blake Snell both going back in the hot tub time machine to 2018 or 2019 when they were both in the AL East. Remember, Sale was on Boston, and then Snell was on Tampa Bay. Or, Sale was maybe on the White Sox. But look at this. So Snell went 7 innings, no runs, 3 hits, no walks, and 12 strikeouts. He's got to be Cy Young or Comeback Player of the Year, definitely for the National League. Then you look at Blake Snell. He's been really good as of late. Of course, he threw the no-hitter in Cincinnati. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I want to say, on the Friday. He went 6 1/3 innings, no runs, 2 hits, 3 walks, but he struck out 11 himself. So it was a good blast from the past, a good pitcher's duel, which is rare to see. And then you get to see veterans play or veterans pitch, and that was just fun to watch. Of course, C.B. Buckner was there, so he has a good strike zone toward the pitchers. But, that was a great game to see. I know we were both watching that. I was watching other games as well. But, man, I think the question is what...
Great. Hold on. Great strike zone. Come on, man. Look at that pitch right there, James. Down the middle, call the ball.
He's a little off and on, but he's favored toward pitchers. That's what I've noticed from C.B. Buckner. Again, this is a massive 4-game series. Giants are now, let's update these standings, by the way. The Giants, I think, are 2.5 back in the wild card, and then you have the Braves getting back a wild card spot or close to it. Let's see. So the Braves, they're back in the 3rd wild card spot. The Diamondbacks and Padres are both 4 games ahead of them in 1st and 2nd. And the Giants, they're 2.5 back in the wild card. The Mets are right there, 1 game back, and then you have the Cardinals at 2. So my question to everyone is, who is this series more important to, the Giants or the Braves? For me, just for the sake of argument, I'll say the Braves, because I know you'll go the other way, being where you are. Just because they've lost so much this year, and they've been losing as of late, but they're trying to, continue to get that wild card spot, working with what they have. They have the 2, aces with Ronaldo Lopez and Sale. And they're just trying to get whatever they can. They had high expectations, of course, trying to take back the East. And then, take back they took the East, but lost in the playoffs. But trying to get back at the Phillies and compete to the Dodgers. So it's more important that they get in, I think. But who's this series more important to, the Giants or the Braves, Isaiah?
I don't want to be a homer. I don't want to be biased because I do live in the Bay, but I got to say the Giants. And here's why. Because the Giants have the talent, right? They got Chapman, they have Snell pitching the way he is, Logan Webb, Heliot Ramos, an all-star this season. And they have the talent. It's just that the Giants have kind of been like the Phillies to start the season, where the offense wasn't hitting. Then the offense was hitting, but they weren't pitching well. Then the pitching and the offense were doing great, and then the bullpen was blowing it. So, but now it seems like they have everything together, and everything is firing on all cylinders. I just think for morale's sake, the Giants need it, just because they're at home. You got to take advantage of that home field that you're playing in the series. And plus the Giants, it just seems like they've been climbing up and up and up this entire year, and they've been trying to get back to this point. And this is going to be a litmus test to see if the Giants are for real or if they're frauds. And also the Giants need this, I feel like, just based on like, hey, we've been climbing, and then this is going to kind of cement them as, okay, like, we're back in the race. We did it. We're at the top now. They won't have to be, climbing again. So I think that's why the Giants need it. I just think for morale's sake, it's very important to them. And also, they, for the Giants, the Braves have a 2.5 game lead right now. So you got to win at least. You need to win the next 3 games, because if you do, then it'll make a tighter race. But if you don't, and let's say you lose and you get swept, which would be disastrous, you would be back to where the Pittsburgh Pirates are right now, which is they're 5 games back. But if let's say you win 2 out of the next 3 games, right? Doing the math, the Giants, I think they will be maybe one game back, so 1.5 games back, which is where they were before the series started. So you can't lose more ground on the Braves, because we know the Braves, their schedule is pretty easy down the road. So you got to take advantage of these matchups, and the Giants have the harder schedule. So that's why for me, I feel like it's bigger for the Giants than it is for the Braves, but obviously it's bigger for both, because the Braves have a chance to pull away from the Giants. Giants have a chance to come all the way back on the Braves. Like, that's why this is going to feel like a playoff series. And, James, I'm glad we talked about the first game, because what an absolute amazing first game this was. I mean, this had the feel of a playoff game. This series is huge, like we said, but the first game, Snell versus Sale, for both of those veteran aces to go at it and, pitch the way they did. I mean, every pitch you were on the edge. It was just phenomenal to watch. The Giants, that's the problem with the Giants have been all season. They cannot get the easy gimme runs in. They just cannot. Like, you have a runner at second base with nobody out after the Braves had took the lead in the top of the 10th inning, and you just can't get the runner to third, and you can't get him home. So that's the problem with the Giants. If they want to be a playoff team, you got to play small ball, and they just haven't been able to do that this season. And that's why I was like super disappointed with them tonight. But I mean, the pitching was great. Rogers was great in that the ninth inning. Randy Rodriguez was very good in the 7th and the 8th as well. And then Ryan Walker, tremendous, their new closer. And, I know we didn't bring that up, but James, Camilo Doval got sent down to AAA, I think a couple of days ago. I'm not surprised, because he's been awful for the Giants. And he's been like kind of that, like, bend, don't break closer, where if he doesn't blow it, he's going to end up, giving you a heart attack and being on the verge of blowing it. You can't win with those closers come playoff time. So I'm glad they sent him down, because you need a guy that just slams the door shut in the 9th. And he's cost them so many games this season.
So Pedro Grifol was fired by the White Sox Thursday. I believe it was Thursday morning. Just shocked the hell out of me, but not really. I guess the timing shocked me. But the White Sox, let's just call it like it is. They're putrid. They're 29-91. They're 36.5 games out of the wild card and divisional. They are 41.5 games out of first place. The run differential is negative 241. It just seemed like Grifol never had the locker room, and the talent was never there, and whoever was there wanted to get out. Crochet wanted out but couldn't get out, but Tommy Pham could. Eloy Jimenez was dealt, but not Luis Robert. That was kind of weird. Last week, I know, what was it, on Tuesday night, they finally won a game. They had the 20-game losing streak, and then won in Oakland, and then lost right away again. And then Grifol was fired after that. So I guess he had an ultimatum. You have to win every game the rest of the way, or else we're going to fire you once you lose. That's what I'm guessing what the hell happened. Though with the White Sox, you really don't know what the hell's going on. It seems like, and I know everybody's been talking about it ever since Thursday. I go to Foul Territory with AJ Brzezinski, NBC Sports Chicago, which I heard is losing the White Sox. The White Sox, the Bulls, the Blackhawks are going to have their own network next season. So it'll be interesting to see which way the White Sox go with their media side. Because I love hearing Ozzie Guillen, talk about the White Sox and how putrid it is and what Grifol should do. And Frank Thomas gets in there with the host, and it's been really fun. You mentioned how NBC Sports Philadelphia is. Well, think of the misery that they go through with the White Sox. So it's just amazing that he lasted this long, and it was only 2 years into his contract. But they've been historically bad, and I just can't believe, a team like this with a record like this is this bad in the analytical era that we're in. Usually you can get someone in here that can change your ball club around. But Jerry Reinsdorf, he has a strong hold on the team. He only hires former White Sox to come in here, or he just goes with someone he feel like is comfortable. Chris Getz is the new GM, starting this year, and hasn't really done much. And the thing is, I'll ask, who should be the next manager. I don't think we know, but I don't know. But I think eventually Reinsdorf will go with someone who's been a former White Sox. I don't know who it would be, but Isaiah, who do you think would be the new manager, and what did you think of Grifol's time with the White Sox?
Not surprised at all that he got fired. I'm of the mindset that he should have never gotten the job to begin with, because they actually had a decent team there when La Russa was there. They went 81-81, remember? And I thought that what they should have done is gotten a proven manager, not a guy who is never managed before, not a guy who was a bench coach for the freaking Kansas City Royals. I mean, if you want to hire a bench coach from a team that actually has won recently. Like, not a guy that when the Royals was bad, you're going to hire their bench coach? Like, why? It makes no sense whatsoever why the White Sox would do that. It was just a stupid move from the beginning. Grifol was set up to fail. He did not have the roster like you mentioned, but I just think he should not have been the manager to begin with. I think he never got along with the players. I heard that he always blamed the players, from what I heard. When they were on that 20-game losing streak, I think he said to his players that, hey, you guys will be the one remembered for this atrocity, not me. So you guys got to play better. It's like, it makes no sense. Like, you're throwing your players under the bus. I think at that point he kind of knew already he was getting fired. So he was just like, what the hell? I'll do whatever I want. I don't care. But yeah, he should have never gotten hired to begin with. He should have been hired to the coach and manage a rebuilding team like Matt Quatraro in Kansas City, not with a contending team with the White Sox, who actually at that time had a lot of decent pieces, right? With Dylan Cease, you had Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Tim Anderson was still on that team. I mean, they weren't bad. Like, they just made the playoffs a couple of years ago, or like a year before that year, in which they had that La Russa disaster. So I just think he should have never been hired. I didn't understand the fit from the beginning, and I'm not surprised that he got fired. Like you mentioned, they were historically bad. I think he was one of the only managers in baseball, if I'm not mistaken, to be 100 games plus under 500. I mean, I've never seen that before.
You
Jake.
mentioned that to me. I think you sent that to me. Yeah.
Oh my God, he's 100 games under 500. Yeah. So, like, and I saw like he's actually 101 games under 500, and they never even let him go past, or they never even let him be better than 100 games plus under 500 before they fired him. So, so for the White Sox, yeah, not a surprise whatsoever. We knew this was coming. It was just only a matter of time. I think, like you said, the timing shocked me because I thought that, you know what, you already let him manage like this far. Why not just let him finish the season?
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing anything anyway. So, like, why not just let him finish out the season? Like, there's really no problem with that. You're not going to win any more games than you have. So, I was shocked at that. But in terms of the new manager, I think what the White Sox need is they need a culture changer, and I think they need an experienced voice in the dugout. Like, I think they need experience because they need someone that can be experienced, that can get through this mess and change the culture, and the players will have respect for it. I don't think you can bring in a guy who has no managerial experience that can come in and have to change the culture and work with that mess, because it will be like Grifol 2.0. So
Isaiah, wait. Before I stop you,
yeah,
let me stop you real quick. So, do you think they go out of the organization for a manager, or do they stay within their ways and continue to hire someone they know?
I think they go out of the organization, and I think Chris Getz, the GM, when he did the press conference to announce the Grifol firing, he actually said that they're going to go out of the organization. He actually said that Grady Sizemore, the interim manager, is going to be temporary. He's only going to finish out the season, and then they're going to do an exhaustive search, and they're going to hire someone from outside the organization. So I think that's a good start, because you get someone to bring new ideas in, and you get someone to finally help turn the tide around. And in terms of who I think should be the new manager, I got a couple of candidates. I think that Jeff Bannister is a very good choice because he's that raw like coach. He's with the D-backs right now. You saw the D-backs young team last year. He helped them win and change the culture there in Arizona. I think he's good. I think he deserves a second shot to manage. I mean, he was good with the Rangers. He led them to the playoffs a couple of times. They had two back-to-back losing seasons, but I mean, the players were already old at that point, and they were on the downfall of their careers. So I don't really blame him for that. I think he definitely deserves another shot. I would probably say, I do want to say Aaron Boone, just because, like, I think he's deep with young players, and like he would get the respect in the clubhouse, but I don't think Boone would want to go there, because if he gets fired by the Yankees, I think he would have options. Here's a guy that I think they should have hired. They should have hired when they let go of Rick Renteria. AJ Hinch. I think AJ Hinch will be out of the job. AJ Hinch is good with like a team like the White Sox, where you can rebuild and he could change the culture in Chicago. I think he would be a great fit. And then last but not least, James, I got to mention him because I think he would do a superb job with the White Sox. And I think he deserves another managerial opening. That's Joe Girardi. I think Joe Girardi absolutely would be because you know why Joe Girardi would be a great fit? Because he wouldn't take crap from Jerry Reinsdorf. He would basically...
Then he would get fired.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter who the manager is. That's why they should just go for someone young, and the players would like rather be friends with instead of being managed by, and then it would only work for a couple of years or so. I think you have to go that route. You can't go anybody old.
How about John Gibbons? He's the bench coach of the Mets right now. He could maybe, for a couple of years, babysit that roster while they're rebuilding.
Man, it's going to be a lot anyway.
Mark Kotsay is another name, too, if he gets let go by Oakland.
Well, yeah, I could kind of see that. But, again, they have a lot to deal with, and it starts from the top all the way down to the players. And their minor league system is really good. I mean, the Angels gave 2 out of their top 5 prospects last year in trades for Lucas Giolito. So they do have talent coming up, but again, it's going to take a while for them to be even respectful. Okay, let's go now to the last Oh, by the way, I gotta mention this. The White Sox did win on Monday 12-2 over the New York Yankees. Somehow that happened. I cannot wait to hear the morning drive sports talk radio in New York when they cover the Yankees. You know, either on what's his name, Michael Kay show or something like that. I just want to hear the phone calls and the people panicking in the Bronx about the Yankees, because you know that's like worse against first right there, basically. And a loss like that, you know, Yankee fans are gonna explode. Anyway, the Olympic segment, the Olympics just ended, I think last night with the closing ceremonies. The gauntlet now is to Los Angeles in 2028. The flame has been blown out, so we'll see in 2028. Hopefully I can get to some events. Anyway, the men's basketball team survived France and won after a while of keeping them in the game in the second quarter, but then the second half they just blew them out of the door. Stephen Curry had about a 6-minute run to finish the game, a 5-minute run that you'll remember him by. It looked like, Curry from a couple years ago, just making everything. The defense of France was not on him, and he just went off. I did see Wemby was crying because he wanted that gold medal for his country, but you could just tell this is going to motivate him to do even better in the NBA. So it's a starting point for him, definitely. So that was great. And I think we all knew USA was going to win, but who would be the one that would give them the most trouble? Everybody thought Serbia. I thought Canada, but it came out to be France. Now, of course, the Olympics was in Paris, France, and McDonald's, the one in France, jokingly considers removing curry sauce after losing gold to the U.S. men's basketball.
No way.
Just jokingly, though. But it's funny how that is, because when you think of curry with hamburgers and fries, curry sauce, it doesn't go well, but in France it does.
Baked potato with Fruit Loops are better, to be honest.
No. So yeah, curry sauce is gone from France. They had enough of curry. They're done with that. And let me get out of here, Isaiah. I'll mention what stood out about the Olympic Games before I let you take over and bounce. Just how fast the games went by. It feels like it was 2 weeks, it seemed like, but I never really realized it until it's over, how fast it all goes. And you think of the years of preparation and practice and the work that these Olympians put in. It's crazy to me. The opening ceremonies were just crazy when you think about it, but the way things are now, LeBron was holding the flag that he hates on that boat. That was kind of weird, that he was the main guy there. Speaking of basketball too, I have to mention Jimmer Fredette led the USA team, the 3 versus 3. They were pitiful. I mean, other countries are running them off the court. And if you ever see 3 versus 3, there's no, inbound pass after you score. You just throw it outside to the 3-point line, and then the offense, turns into defense, basically. And they just looked out of shape. And to me, like Ice Cube mentioned with his big 3, they should have sent those guys. I know a lot of them are retired. A lot of them are former players, but damn, I would have loved to see them play more than Jimmer Fredette and then whoever else was out there for the 3 versus 3, they were out right away. It seemed like, and the women didn't do. The women were okay too, but it just feels like they got to get better with that. China was caught cheating again, and there was something in gymnastics and in swimming this time. So that's always a thing with the Olympics, and I don't know if any punishment will ever come there. Of course, we had the trans women boxers going on, and that was a controversial issue, and the trans woman won gold, and just something maybe has to change with that. And then finally, I'll mention the U.S. women's gymnastics. They just seemed like they blew out everybody late there to get the gold. They were really good, led by Simone Biles, and her journey to get back to the top was amazing with her teammates, and they were amazing. By the way, she'll be in my city I'm in right now. She'll open up the new Front Wave Arena on her tour of America, and she'll display her talents at the arena at the first event here. So, something to look forward to. I know I've had people reach out to me for tickets and say they're online, I can't help you. But that's what I noticed from the Olympics. It just went by so damn fast that a lot of events, of course, were overnight or early in the morning, because there's like, an 8-hour difference, I want to say. What I really liked about it, I would wake up Saturday morning and there was at least 2 basketball games on. And again, I was rooting for Canada or Serbia or France. And I love seeing those old players that were in the NBA that were, playing for the country, but not anymore in the NBA. So that was really cool to see, like Feliciano was on the Brazil team, and he was their main guy basically going against the USA, and they got blown out. There's just no way that guy was going to stop all the other guys on the USA team. And I'll mention this before I go. I still think the 92 team would destroy the 2024 I'm not even going to say dream team, but this Olympic basketball team for the men's. I still think 92 is the best team ever assembled. Like everybody mentions, I don't think there's any doubt about it, to have all this talent there. And just think about it. Instead of Leitner, they could have had Shaq. A young freaking Shaq dominating off the bench. I mean, that would have been better than just sitting Jason Tatum there and barely playing him. And then, did you notice Devin Booker finally got some run late in the game?
And he was good, too.
Yeah. So, I guess Steve Kerr had a thing against Tatum, and Embiid, I know, were getting the boos from people because he grew up in France, but he wanted to play for a winner with the USA. And then, I got to mention as well, I keep forgetting this, the U.S. women's basketball totally dominated as well. There was no doubt that they were going to win. Isaiah, I'm going to get out of here. I got to go to work early, but thanks for letting me come on. I'll see you next time.
Work? I thought you don't know that word. Just kidding. That's my guy right there. But yeah, for me, about Team USA, I'm not surprised that they won because they had so much talent. LeBron, KD, AD, Booker, Embiid, Tatum barely played, if at all. But yeah, they just had the most talent. I think once Germany got knocked out, I think that that's when I thought, the U.S. was going to win it. Shout out to Wemby. I mean, he gave the U.S. He gave them fits, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for years and years and years. And I can't wait to see what he does with the Spurs. But not surprised. I mean, my guy Devin Booker played outstanding in his limited run. Curry, LeBron, KD, they were the guys that really helped lifted Team USA to the title. I mean, you have 4 future Hall of Famers right there, first ballot surefire Hall of Famers with Curry, KD, LeBron. That's a big 3 that would win. That would go 80-2 in the NBA. So I'm not surprised they dominated. That game against Serbia was phenomenal. It was a great game to watch. From start to finish. And then the game against France also was a great game to watch. So not surprised Team USA won, like James mentioned. I was kind of surprised at how hard the road was with Serbia and with France, how close the games were, because I thought the U.S. were going to blow them out. But shout out to them. They played really good basketball, and it was a great, fun game. And luckily, the U.S. came out on top. In terms of my thoughts on the Olympics as a whole, like you mentioned, James, it went by too fast. I thought that, like I didn't really have a chance to watch a lot of the events because everything was always at night and when I was sleeping. So didn't really have a chance to watch it. But Team USA women's basketball was unbelievable. They were like the 1992 dream team. There was nobody going to beat them. No one was coming close to them. They've got a bright future there. And keep this in mind. Caitlin Clark was not even on the team. I mean, it was Diana Taurasi, Kelsey Plum, and Sabrina Ionescu that led the team. And Sabrina Ionescu put on an absolute show for Team USA. And like James mentioned, Simone Biles was terrific. The one event that I did watch was the relay race, the relay where they swam. That was fun to watch. Swimming was fun to watch as well. Diving, I always love to watch diving. That was fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, it was just a good Olympics. It was fun, very spirited and very competitive and very fun to watch. And I can't wait for it to be in LA because it's LA's going to put on a show because it's Hollywood and they're just going to put on a show there. And I think that, I can't wait to see what event, like all the events happen in Los Angeles. Definitely going to be watching. I hope tackle football is allowed because I think that would definitely help. Everybody talks about the NFL wanting to, take the game overseas. Well, what's perfect way to take it overseas is if you put football in the Olympics. I think it would be perfect. But yeah, I can't wait for it to be in LA. It's going to be an absolute spectacle and yeah, cannot wait for it. But guys, it's been a great show. We're 2 hours and almost 40 minutes into the program. But yeah, let's get into our final thoughts for tonight. Here is our final thoughts. Here is our final thoughts, if we have it. There we go. All right, guys, it's been a great show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in and staying up late with us here on this Monday night. Appreciate James and Ben for hopping on. Quick announcements. We are going to have a college football preview special coming up in next week, actually. So that's going to be fun. I got my magazine already. My boy Will Rogers is on the cover of it. So I'm studying, ready to go, ready to preview what should be an amazing season of college football. The first season of the new college football expanded playoffs and the realignments, new conferences and everything. That should be so much fun. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And we're going to have our NFL preview show coming up in a couple of weeks, a week after the college football preview special. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And then I think, like Ben mentioned, kicking it with Cruz maybe sometime over this weekend. So stay tuned for that as well. But my final thoughts, appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight. Appreciate Ben for hopping on. Appreciate James for hopping on as well. It was a fun show. A lot of great topics. Football is back. Can't wait for preseason week 2. I know I'm going to be going to a couple of A's games. I know I'm also going to be going to the San Jose State home opener in a couple of weeks. So yeah, man, college football comes back next week, actually, with Hawaii kicking it off week 0. San Jose State opens up the Thursday of week 1, and then boom, Saturday, here we go, man. College football officially begins, and then 4 days later, you've got NFL football kicking off. So it's going to be fun. The basketball schedule comes out, I think, tomorrow. So make sure you guys tune in or stay tuned for that. That should be very exciting. Can't wait to see who the Lakers play, who they open up with. the Christmas games, Martin Luther King Day, and their schedule how it is in their first year under head coach J.J. Redick. And then the one thing I do want to talk about before we end the program for tonight is I do want to get into, I don't know if I have the picture for it, but my birthday is coming up. So, at 26 years old, 25 went by like this. I'm going to be 26 in a couple of days. So, I feel old now. And, it feels like time is going by really, really quick, which it is. It's crazy. It's a great show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you guys back on here on the MI6 Sports Network as well as the IM6 Network on this weekend, possibly for Kicking It with Cruz. If not, we're going to have another show next week, college football preview special. Here we go, baby. Football is officially gonna be back. Have a great night, everybody.
But I said, if you gave me Mahomes, if you gave me Lamar Jackson with his great legs and Mahomes' great arm, or you gave me Baker Mayfield, who would I want? I would want Baker Mayfield, and the reason why is because Baker...
Third and 29. Jones steps up, tries to avoid it, buys some time. Jones uncorks, deep ball, touchdown on the ricochet.
Purdy back to throw, pressure coming, steps away, looking to run, and he walks it in for the touchdown. Throw on 4th and 18. He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Oh my goodness! Justin Jefferson! Jacobs with running room right up the middle! Jacobs is on his way! The Raiders are going to win this game! Lays it up, and it's intercepted Trayvon Diggs! Guess who? To McCaffrey right up the middle, and it's stiff arm McCaffrey for 6.